Derek Carr, and then, just your acclimation.
I mean, anytime you change quarterbacks from, a Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, you go, Stabler to Rich Gannon or whoever you go to, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment.
I mean, it's always tough going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. From Devontae to Allen, it's going to be, a transition.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'll give him credit. That was pretty good. That was pretty good by Aaron Rodgers. Going from Devontae Adams to
Alan Lazard.
I always got MVS and Lazard mixed up last year. I feel like they were the same player. You never saw them at the same place at the same time, even though they might have been on the field at the same time. But, it's kind of like the Multiplicity movie that you've never seen. Where you just start to just clone yourself. Yes, Alan Lazard. It's always tough to go from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. Oh, you think Aaron Rodgers was offended that he was viewed the same as Derek Carr from Devontae Adams? You go from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. I mean, it's different.
Rich Gannon to Ken Stabler.
It's different. I'm not saying it's better or worse, just saying it's different. That's all. It is the Zone on this Thursday edition right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We got a lot of stuff to get into. We got a packed show. We will hear from the Royals and their commentary and interview and media session for the Andrew Benintendi trade, the reaction that is out there, the analysis that's out there for Andrew Benintendi heading to the New York Yankees. I'm assuming he just gets on the same flight with the Royals. Well, I guess they flew there. Yeah, it was a getaway day. So does he have to then switch hotels? Does he then leave the hotel room that he was with the Royals? Do the Yankees then put him up in a hotel room? Does John Sherman and the ownership group, do they save a little money on an expensive New York hotel for Andrew Benintendi that the Yankees then? Is that part of sending cash with the Yankees, is sending cash for the hotel room? I'm not sure, but it would have been better had they traded him tomorrow and he would have just gone from wearing a Royals uniform and warming up to then going across the clubhouse to then getting a Yankees uniform on, going from being written into the Royals lineup to then written into the Yankees lineup, expected to bat second for the Royals, and then an hour later he's batting second for the Yankees. That was what I wanted to see happen.
Yeah.
It was close, but they couldn't even give us that. But instead, what you have is the Yankees knowing this is a crucial 4-game set for them. So they decided to go and get somebody that had all the trade secrets for the Royals. He knows where all the bodies are buried. We bring this guy in, we can pick his brain, and we know everything that these pitchers have to offer. How do you go against this hitter? What are the Royals going to do in late game situations? What's the scout that they have on us? We need these 4 games, so let's go and trade for Andrew Benintendi. It's chess, and it feels like the Royals lately have been just playing checkers. And other teams out there just playing chess. We will talk about the trade, obviously. I am initial reaction when I saw it was like, thought they would get a little bit more. Then I feel like my reaction was the same as a lot of other people's path through the initial reaction to where we are today after sleeping on it of I thought they would get a little bit more to then, well, they got 3 guys instead of 1, and if you're going to get multiple guys, then you're not going to get a top 5 prospect and throw in a top 20 prospect after that and another just, throw-in guy there. It's kind of like 1 or 3, and if the Yankees weren't willing to trade any of their top 10, if you weren't getting that from other teams as well, you know what the market's going to be, or you know what you feel like the market's going to be. So you make the deal that you do. You get 3 guys back. All 3 have had at least some positive said about them in the last 6 months or so. You depending on whatever baseball analyst you follow, believe in, respect. I've heard Beck Way as the prize of this, and I've heard TJ Sikkema as the prize of this. And then I believe it was David Lesky who wrote about his reaction, and at the end of that, he put like a scout's take on Chandler Champlain I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure. Chandler Champlain? Not sure. But it was, this guy is a gem that the Yankees found. So who knows? There's some upside to it. We will get into more in-depth of this breakdown, the players they got, what it means, overall big picture, looking at last year's trade deadline. Was this what should have been a relative expected return? And did Jeff Passan really ruin it for Royals fans? Did Jeff Passan ruin it for Royals fans when he went on the Baseball Tonight podcast with Buster Olney and he said, Andrew Benintendi is one of those rare trade chips when everybody wants him. The major market teams want him. The low market teams want him. Mid-market teams want him. Division leaders, wild card teams, everybody wants Andrew Benintendi. He's going to bring back a haul at the trade deadline. You know, I talked about it at the time when we heard that and played the clip from Jeff Passan on Baseball Tonight's podcast with Buster Olney. And I said, what's your definition of haul? Some might look at this and say, you got three guys with potential starter pieces to what their repertoire is for a rent-a-player who has hit 3 home runs and plays left field. He's not a catcher. He's not a shortstop. Not a center fielder. He plays left field, plays a good left field. He's a gold glover. But he's hit 3 home runs. He gets on base. He's got a high batting average. He's going to get on base in front of the big boppers that the Yankees have, so there's value to that. But he's not a guy that hits the ball over the wall, at least in the stadiums he's been playing in. Now that he's got a shorter porch in New York, maybe he does that. Maybe he drops the batting average to hit a few more home runs. Maybe that's the case. But, you know, realistically looking at it and breaking all of those things down, last night, I'm okay with it. My feeling today is I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine with it. Not blown away, not overwhelmed, not, oh man, how did the Royals pull this off? Thank you, Benintendi, for being such a good player. Thank you for the rest of the trade market not being as hot and as saturated as it was a year ago with all these different big names. That Benintendi was one of the prized possessions that people could go out and trade for. Thank you for that happening. And look at this player they have back. Wow, a top 100 prospect, a pitcher or whatever. That's more ready to go that the Yankees have developed that the Royals don't have to. I'm sort of, and I'm not underwhelmed. I'm not like, oh my God, they got fleeced. What are you doing here? So I'm just whelmed.
You're whelmed.
I'm not under or over. I'm just whelmed.
It seems like it's okay, which is like not a fun place to be. I went through a very similar experience to you, and I was also reading Lesky this morning, and he was going through a similar experience. It makes me feel a little less alone. Of like your first thought. Do I have a cough button? The first thought is, well, I thought we were kind of sold a bill of goods here that maybe he'd bring you back a top 10 prospect, and by the major rankings, Beck Way is 13th in Baseball America for the Yankees. That you would say that's the highest number of any of the major prospect rankers.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that any of these guys are ever going to have a KC on their hat. Like there is no absolute stone cold lock that one of these guys is going to be a major league starter at some point. There's also a chance that all three of them could end up developing into major league pieces. Maybe you get a starter and a bullpen piece. If that's the case, this is a great trade. But what it seems like they did was say, we will take the numbers of three guys that have, they like you said, with Way and Sycamore, maybe an argument of even who you prefer there. And then if you can find a hidden gem in, I'm going to say Champlain. I think that sounds more elegant. I probably is. Maybe, I know, Champ is good. Champlain is good. Nicknames, Chandler. I call him Chandler, first name basis.
Yeah, but if you take out the L, it would feel like it would be pronounced Champagne.
Right.
So that's why I'm just going Champlain.
I think Champlain would be how I would want my name to be pronounced.
Good.
If that was it.
Yeah,
So we can go with that until he corrects us.
Good for you. Good for you.
Maybe JJ Picola will have an entire portion of his press conference that just goes phonetically through all three of these guys. It's actually Sycamore. You have to get both Ks. But like,
no, it is Sycamore.
I get that makes sense.
He played the defensive end at KU.
That's right. Did you have any point of reference for Mizzou baseball at any point? Did that ever cross? I don't know how much how plugged in you are to Tigers baseball.
No, I still root for Mizzou baseball. It's been a little tough as of late, but was a big Max Scherzer fan, Kyle Gibson fan, Trey Harris fan for obvious reasons there, fan of them, and Sycamore broke Max Scherzer's Mizzou strikeout record.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When he was there, so
okay,
yeah.
good nugget.
So something to think about.
Local connection, it's kind of fun.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think it makes sense. I would have had a lot more fun if it would have been a AAA outfielder that they got in return. But it's also 60-some games of Benintendi that, will reach into the playoffs. He has value for the Yankees. The one point that Lesky made that had me, that I wonder if JJ will get asked about, I'd like to hear the logic on, is just that the Royals just kind of were the first team to set the market ahead of the trade deadline.
Yeah.
They made this trade a little earlier than they had to. Now, the Yankees might have said, do it today or we're keeping Champlain. And okay, fine. And if that's the case, hey, that logic could absolutely be there.
Well,
But
Lord
I
knows
think
you
that's
don't
a
want to
little-
lose Champlain.
Listen, it's real pain for my fake friends, Champlain for my real friends, I believe is the Drake lyric.
It's like first season of Better Call Saul when Mike's just getting into being the dirtier type guy, getting back into that, and he's setting up that deal
need to
with
watch
the
Better Call Saul
the
still.
goofy looking dude that was like, we need 3 guys, and he's like, we need 1. It's like, you're $20 short. Really, $20? The price is the price that we agreed to. You're gonna break this deal over $20? Are you? Come on,
good.
you're gonna lose this
I
guy
like
over
that.
Champlain? Are you?
Are you?
Okay, yes, we'll throw in Champlain. All right,
Yeah.
fine, whatever.
I hope that JJ's been reviewing various TV dramas
Yeah, that's right.
for his negotiation tactics. I think that could probably do him some good. But yeah, I get
we
it.
know
I
every
get it.
lawyer out there watches Matlock.
You have to.
That's how they really hone their skills, is watching Matlock.
I think that we should let TV impact even more of our culture. I think that would be just really write it out. And every high school chemistry teacher who has some extra medical bills they have a blueprint now.
Good with it. Totally good with it.
Teachers don't get paid. Hey, pay the teachers.
Yes. Benintendi has been traded. We'll see what happens with Whit Merrifield, with Scott Barlow, Michael A. Taylor, Hunter Dozier, other names, Stalmont, names that have been talked about as could be traded at the trade deadline. A lot of Royals fans saying, well, keep going, keep naming names. Brad Keller, doesn't look like really Zach Greinke's going to be traded unless he wants to be traded. I guess because he bought a house or something. Saw that report that it was like the Royals aren't going to trade Zach Greinke because Zach Greinke doesn't want to be traded, and they agreed to that. Whatever. But just keep throwing names in there that if somebody wants them, hey, great, except for maybe Bobby Witt. Like the only one that is like, I'm not trading is Bobby Witt. If somebody wants MJ Melendez, well, you better come correct. If you want...
Juan Soto's available. Look.
See? There you go. Who says no to that? Melendez and Prado for Juan Soto. Who says no? Besides the Nationals. Who says no?
Other than that, though.
Besides the ones who would be the biggest players in this whole thing.
Maybe John Sherman. I don't know. Arguably both sides. I think
don't
John
know.
Sherman would open it up for Juan Soto.
I don't know. I think Juan Soto, like, he wants to make $500 million over 10 years. You good with that?
That's what billionaire money is for.
I don't know.
Paying Juan Soto.
Not really sure that that's going to be the case. We'll be able to do that. So we'll talk certainly about Andrew Benintendi. We'll hear from J.J. Piccolo. We'll hear from other analysts weighing in on that. Kent Swanson is going to be our guest, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast at 11 o'clock. We'll talk with James Palmer, NFL Network, coming up at noon. We got Sports or Leisure presented by Johnny's Tavern today at 1 o'clock. And we will hear from the Chiefs today, Chiefs press conferences, some point. Not really sure.
We're looking at approximately 11-ish, and so I think maybe...
Okay, so Kent Swanson then maybe has to move back. Do we contact Kent?
Beards and I might contact Kent.
Okay, very good. We're going to hear from Steve Spagnuolo, Chris Jones, Joe Tooney, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Spagnuolo, awesome to listen to. Love listening to Spagnuolo. Chris Jones can say some funny things. Tooney is going to give you absolutely nothing. And Edwards-Helaire is typically a wild card when it comes to his press conferences. So, interesting day today. Interesting day today once you get through Tooney and just out here. And Orlando Brown's not here. I'm just, wherever Andy Heck and Andy Reid, have us line up. Wherever I'm just do my job. And I'm 1 of 5 on the offensive line. So, it's a long journey, and a journey starts with a step. And you can't get there without taking every other step along the way, and we're just taking our steps to where we're going to get to this season. So looking forward to it. Just going to do my job, come out here. Yeah, the fans are great. I love being around the fans. The heat, it could be but we got to get ready to play it. So you got to block that out because you got to be mentally strong when it comes to the season too.
What'd you bring to your dorm to make you feel more like home?
Oh, just like, my blanket and my pillow and stuff like that. So, but mainly focusing on football. That's what I'm doing. Okay, is that it? All right, thank you, Joe.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, very good. Clyde Edwards-Helaire up now. So we'll hear from those particular individuals as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810. The text line. If you like the deal, you don't like the deal, you're good with the deal, underwhelmed, overwhelmed, are you whelmed with this thing at all? You can weigh in 913-912-4810. A few things I wanted to look at that, if we go back and look at last year's trade deadline, we had been discussing Andrew Benintendi a lot this summer based on what last year's trade deadline looked like. And the one way, and we should have been viewing it a couple of different ways, last night after the trade, I'm like, well, we probably should have looked at it this way as well. But we had been looking at it one particular way. And that was the market this year was minimal when it came to impact players, as opposed to last year when the trade deadline was just nuts. Just something I don't ever remember a trade deadline that had, Chris Bryant and Rizzo and Baez and Schwarber and Scherzer and Trey Turner and Kimbrel and Gallo and Berrios all at the trade deadline last year. This year it's going to be like Benintendi, some relievers, and Luis Castillo. Like last year it was names and it was impactful players and prospects were being sent because teams were going for it. And so looking at it from that standpoint this year, you're going, well, those names aren't there. So like the outfielders are like Andrew Benintendi, Ian Happ, Garrett Cooper, Santander with Baltimore, but then they've been awesome, so is Baltimore then going to trade? Like those are the names that we're Pham, that we're discussing as, outfield trade pieces this year. And again, Luis Castillo. So the way we had been looking at it was that should drive up the market value for Andrew Benintendi because there aren't a lot of other pieces. And last night, looking at it and looking at the prospects and things like that, and then going back and reassessing what happened a year ago, another way of viewing it kind of hit me, and I wish I would have had this thought earlier in the discussions around the trade, and that is the flip side of that can be true, that if there aren't many that are available on the open market, you may not be as willing to overpay because other teams aren't getting difference makers. Whereas, okay, the Dodgers just freaking got Scherzer and Trey Turner. Okay, Giants, what are you going to do? Well, then we got to go get Chris Bryant. So we got to give up some draft picks. Mets, what are you going to do? We're going to give up our first-round draft pick, the number 19 pick in the 2020 draft for Javier Baez, because we've now got to make a big move as well. Schwarber goes to the Red Sox. Okay, Yankees, what are you going to do? All right, we're getting Anthony Rizzo. So, and Joey Gallo, last year. So maybe it was from that standpoint that it was some of these names started going because other teams got more aggressive because, okay, well, if they did that, we've got to answer. And if this year the teams are looking at it and going, okay, well, if the Yankees add Andrew Benintendi, is that the missing piece? Are they now unbeatable?
Doesn't spur an arms race necessarily.
Right. Whereas I thought, and the way I was viewing, and maybe I was viewing it through Royals-colored glasses, that Benintendi being one of the bigger names, therefore there could be a bidding war, and teams would say, yes, we're going to do what it takes to get Benintendi because the market is slim.
You have fewer pieces on a scale, so a little less weight might move the scale more than it would have in any other market. But there's not any other weight to add to the other side. It's just littler impact. It's a drop of water in the ocean or whatever.
And if you look at Benintendi, like we know that he's batting .320, getting on base at .387, which is awesome. He's slugging .398, not great. He's OPSing under 800, but he's getting on base with a lot of singles. He's got 3 home runs, 14 doubles, a couple of triples. So he's got 19 total extra base hits this year. 19 total extra base hits with his .320 batting average. And if you compare that to a year ago, when you're talking about, okay, does the guy hit the ball over the fence? Benintendi has 19 total extra base hits. At the trade deadline last year, Chris Bryant had 18 home runs and 19 doubles. He also had 4 stolen bases, which is what Benintendi has as well. Kyle Schwarber. Remember, Benintendi, 19 extra base hits. Kyle Schwarber had 25 home runs at the trade deadline last year, being traded from the Nats to the Red Sox. Javi Baez, shortstop, had 22 home runs last year at the trade deadline and 13 stolen bases. Anthony Rizzo, at the trade deadline, had 14 home runs and 16 doubles to go with 3 triples. And you go, well, yeah, but Benintendi had 4 stolen bases, and Rizzo had 4 stolen bases as well last year at the trade deadline. So when you're starting to see guys that were rent-a-players, because that's what those guys were, they were rent-a-players. Craig Kimbrell had team control. Joey Gallo had team control. Trey Turner had team control for 1 year. So that's not apples and apples with those trades. Those are apples and oranges because Benintendi's a rent-a-player. Bryant, Schwarber, Baez, Rizzo were rent-a-players. They were at the end of their contract, and they were hitting the ball over the fence, driving in runs, OPSing at a pretty good clip as well, and they didn't exactly bring back King's ransoms when other teams were like, okay, we've got to go and do this. Chris Bryant brought back the number 7 prospect from the Giants in their organization and another guy who was unranked. Now that number 7 prospect who was in the Giants organization entered this season as the number 20 prospect for the Cubs. Because of what happened the rest of the season last year. And mid-season update by Baseball America, he's now number 16 for the Cubs. Caleb Killian, who was not ranked, moved into number 7 for the Cubs preseason because of what happened at the end of the season. And he's now the number 4 prospect for the Cubs mid-season. So they've got a number 4 and number 16 in their system prospect for Chris Bryant, a runner player, who, by the way, was OPSing at 861 and had a 130 OPS plus, and had 18 home runs and 19 doubles, when Benintendi has 19 total extra base hits. Kyle Schwarber, again, 25 home runs and a 146 OPS plus at the time, brought back a guy who was Aldo Ramirez, who was the number 20 prospect in the Red Sox organization, for one player. He's now the number 11 midseason update prospect for the Nationals. Number 11 in their prospect rankings for a guy who was OPSing at 146 plus. OPSing over 900, but a 146 OPS plus with 25 home runs. Also getting on base at 340. Baez is a little different, though. So, and this is where I think people were talking about packaging Benintendi and maybe a Scott Barlow. Because Javi Baez was a free agent at the end of the season, but the Cubs also traded a pitcher, Trevor Williams, who had 1 year left of team control. He was a starter for the Cubs. The Mets moved him into the bullpen, and he had a 3 ERA the rest of the way, and he's got a 3 ERA with the Mets this year. Baez brought back the number 19 pick in the 2020 draft, who just participated in the Futures game, in the 2022 Futures game. He entered as the Cubs' number 4 prospect. Mid-season, he's now the number 1 Cubs prospect. He entered this year not in the top 100 prospects. Mid-season, he's now 33 prospect. That was for a shortstop that was hitting 22 home runs and a pitcher that also had team control that was a bullpen guy for the Mets. Brought back that guy, who's now a top 50 prospect. And that's where I think people were talking about, do you go for one guy and you throw in Scott Barlow? Because that's what the Cubs did. Now they were trading Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo and Javier Baez, so they could look at a number of different packages. And for Baez, to the Mets, they said, we want this guy, and we'll throw in this pitcher as well. You're getting a guy who's hit 22 home runs. He plays shortstop. You're going to have this guy at second base for you. You're going to have this guy playing second base for you. And they said, okay, we'll give you the number 19 overall pick in the 2020 draft.
The Chiefs are signing Carlos Dunlap.
That was where I was going next. We were going to take a timeout, and we were getting ready to talk about the Chiefs and Carlos Dunlap. It's about damn time that they signed somebody This show, I don't know which show. There's a show that's been on the air. Maybe it's almost entirely sports. I don't know. There's a show that's been on the air that has been talking about defensive ends. And while people were talking about Robert Quinn, which we have, there was another name we kept mentioning, a show kept mentioning and saying, why wouldn't the Chiefs be interested in this guy? Being Carlos Dunlap. I'm going to have to go and look at podcasts to see what show that was.
Would have been cool if I could have ever finished my training camp point yesterday when I was going to say that my big prediction was the Chiefs would sign a defensive end that we've heard of. I guess I did that for Fact or Fiction last week. I've been ahead of the curve.
You did. You were ahead of the curve last week.
Boom!
Yes.
I got credit too!
We've been talking about Carlos Dunlap all summer.
Let's spend the next 30 minutes just giving each other credit for how smart we all were predicting where the Chiefs are going to go.
Let's talk about what the Royals can get back for Carlos Dunlap coming up next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
We're going to kick you in the teeth. All right, and when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you, and when you knock us down, we're going to get up, and on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Nine 912-4810. Text says, was the show almost entirely The Zone? No, that wasn't the show that was talking about it. Or maybe it was. I'm not sure what was going on at night. Another text comes in. We were talking about Carlos Dunlap at the very end there. We were talking about the Benintendi trade, obviously, but Carlos Dunlap signing with the Chiefs now, and I'm excited about it. This text comes in, says, well, Josh was going to break the news on ESPN Radio, but got bumped for Teicher.
I would start explaining the details of that, but it's too soon for us to take a break to cut me off.
Is it, though? Is it, though?
Remind me in a few minutes. Actually,
is it too soon to take a break?
It really might fix our clocks if I started doing that more often as I forced our way into commercials by just defending myself.
You and Beard start sabotaging the show, or at least sabotaging me.
Saving the show, some would say.
Sabba-saving.
Sabba-saving the show.
Sabba-saving the show. And as we start to go a little bit longer in the opening segment, Beards just asks you about that whole getting bumped by Teicher on ESPN Radio, and you start talking about it, and we immediately go to break. I'm like, oh, you could have just said break in my ear, Beards. I typically listen to that.
Sometimes I even hear it, yeah.
Totally. All right, so Carlos Dunlap is a Kansas City Chief, a one-year deal worth up to $8 million. Up to $8 million. It's a $1 million base salary with $7 million bonus if he's the Super Bowl MVP. I like the deal for the Chiefs. That is not true, by the way, but that would be one amazing deal if it was the veteran league minimum with a bonus of $7 million if he's Super Bowl MVP. There's your up to $8 million. We'll find out the particulars of the deal. I do find it interesting, and I'm not going the Brian Windhorst, that something interesting happening in St. Joe. Something interesting. I'm not going that route. But I find it interesting that Travis Kelce's cap hit in 2025 was going to be 18.65. They moved $3 million of his base salary from that year to this year to take a $3 million added cap hit this year, lowering his cap in 2025, which he's not going to play under anyway. So essentially they just gave him $3 million this year, which I'm good with because he deserves it, right? He's overperformed. He's outperformed his contract, and it's interesting that that news comes out yesterday. So they go from $11 million over the cap, or under the cap, I should say, $11 million room to right around $8 million room, and then the next day they sign Carlos Dunlap to something that's worth up to $8 million. That I find to be interesting with those two things coinciding. Because depending on what the particulars of the Dunlap deal is, it's not like Brett Veach to be that close to the ceiling of the salary cap going into the season when he doesn't have flexibility or has less flexibility to go and make moves midseason to bring players in. But we'll see the particulars of the Dunlap deal.
There's definitely something going on with Orlando Brown there. I mean, in terms of just they know what his cap hit is now.
16.6.
Or zero. Right? I mean, that would be that's the nuclear move. I think they're expecting it to be 16.6. But maybe they just sort of realize all that. And look,
you're right. There's two choices.
They're really it's very binary now. There's no, well, maybe we'll get his first year down to 6 flat. Nope, it's 16 or nothing. But with Dunlap, to your point about the up to $8 million, that is likely going to include those incentives, and then the metric of what it ends up being on a certain year's cap hit is if an incentive is likely to be earned or not likely to be earned, which is determined by what the player did last season. And this is one of the things about Carlos Dunlap that I think should probably make this signing pretty exciting for some people. He had 8.5 sacks last year. I need to see where that would have put him among the Chiefs. I think it would have made him second on the team in sacks.
Behind Jones, who had 9.
I think that's right. I don't, because nobody hit double digits.
No.
So I think that would have been second on the team last year. Shout out to Connor Christopherson for the stats on this.
It would have been a quarter of the entire team's sacks last year, since they had,
awesome.
32?
I think that's right. And Connor noted that he had a better pass rush win rate than both Frank Clark and Melvin Ingram last year in his time with the Seahawks. He is not your starter. You do not want him to have to start right now. But the Chiefs have a desperate need in this exact role because we were talking about earlier today, like that opening actually might have been Beards and I talking about. The opening defense was including Mike Dana at one defensive end spot.
Right. Yesterday.
Today as well, I think he was there
today as
first,
well?
and then they
Okay.
were working Karlaftis in alongside him. That can't be even Plan B. And if Plan A is Frank Clark career year and George Karlaftis defensive rookie of the year, that is also a very dangerous Plan A. So now you have you have two veterans from former Seahawks. Dunlap obviously spent most of his career with the Bengals, but most recently with Seattle. You have Clark and Dunlap as the older guys that if you could get 50% out of them at their spots, you would be thrilled in terms of like 50% of being a productive pass rusher. Karlaftis should be a machine. Mike Dana is a perfectly good number. Mike Dana as a 4 versus the 3 is a huge gulf to me because he can be a 3 in a pinch when somebody gets hurt, but if he's suddenly forced into a starting role, I'm nervous. And then Josh Caindale is back to being a develop, figure it out lottery ticket type. The numbers will be very interesting. Where the incentives cut off will be very interesting. But good grief. It sounds like I don't have to convince you either, but man, this move made a lot of sense to me.
No, I like it. I've been asking for it, or at least the Chiefs, to be interested in Carlos Dunlap. It doesn't cost you a draft pick. And look, I know that Robert Quinn is a guy that people had been talking about. We had talked about it here, and I'd have been good if the Chiefs would have traded for Robert Quinn, depending on the draft pick, right? Depending on what they would have had to give up. My concern being that he had 18.5 sacks last year, but he had 2 the entire year before. And he played in 15 games and only had 2 sacks. Now he had 11.5 in 2019, 6.5 in 2018. He hasn't been the model of consistency as of late. And he's going to be 32 years old as well. It's not like, again, he's 26, 27 years old. Dunlap's going to be 33 when he plays this year. But Dunlap's career has been, going in reverse, 2021, and then before that, 8.5, 6, 9, 8, 7.5, 8, 13.5, 8, 7.5, 6, and then first 2 years in the league, 4.5 and 9.5 his rookie year. He's only reached double digits one time, but he's been he's going to get to 7 or 8. That's when he's going to get to. And the year that he had 6, in that run, when we're talking about the year that he had 6, was when he got traded from Cincinnati to Seattle. That was the story around Dunlap not being happy in Cincinnati, not wanting to be there anymore, wanting to go somewhere else. They were, a team that had been tanking, and, they had Burrow, and it's a rookie quarterback, and he didn't want to be around anymore. Although, looking back, he, was there since 2010 and then jumped ship a year early, and they go to the Super Bowl the next year. But they trade him, and he plays 8 games for the Seahawks and has 5 sacks in those 8 games. He wanted to be traded to go to a different spot. He got there. It looked like it rejuvenated him. This past year, in 17 games with the Seahawks, he had 8.5 sacks. So he ends up with 13.5 sacks in 25 games with the Seahawks, after having only 1 sack in 7 games with the Bengals to start the 2020 season and wanting out. So he's been consistent, and even as recently as last year, he has shown that he can sack the quarterback. If you like Pro Football Focus, his PFF grades have been really good in his career as well. And, 72, 87, 89, 77, 71, 76, 75, 77, 78, 89, 60, 72. He's been right around there. Last year was the 60, 2020 was the 60 when he got, traded and ended up with Seattle. And in fact, let me go and look at what he did specifically with the Seahawks. And yeah, he had a 66 pass rush grade with the Seahawks alone. So not great, but better than what he had with the Bengals, which was a 57.
He also, for a different number that's worth knowing, in 2020, he played 59% of the snaps with the Bengals before being traded, playing 57% of the snaps with the Seahawks, 38% of the snaps with the Seahawks defensively last year.
Yeah.
Started 2 of those games, appeared in the rest of them. Again, just getting the vision right for what he's going to bring, I think, is important for people.
Yes.
But I think this is as big as just about as big a splash as you could get 2 days in the training camp at a desperate position of need.
What I wanted the Chiefs to do, and whether it was with Melvin Ingram or with Carlos Dunlap, what I wanted them to do was have somebody there that could either split with Frank Clark or Karlaftis, so that you had at least 3 guys you felt like, okay, were decent players.
Yep.
I would like Karlaftis to be awesome, and therefore Dunlap and Frank Clark can, exchange those snaps.
Absolutely.
And the two of them add up to 95% of the other side. And then Karlaftis is like 75, throw in Dana, Kando, others. And I feel better about the defensive end room. I feel better about the defensive line now that Carlos Dunlap is a Chief. We'll see. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we expect to hear from Spagnuolo, who has a new defensive end on his team. Chris Jones, who's got a new teammate that's going to be lining up next to him, along with Joe Tooney and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Not much of a break yesterday, Herbie, unless you're counting lunch. I had lunch. That was good, right?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We will talk with Kent Swanson coming up in the 11 o'clock hour at some point once the press conferences are over out in we're up in St. Joe, as Steve Spagnuolo, along with Chris Jones and Joe Tooney and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, will be talking at the podium today whenever they get there. Practice is wrapped up. They are going through their stretching right now. So at any moment, we believe we'll hear from the Chiefs and the defensive coordinator and some players as well. A couple of updates on practice today. Roderick Johnson, again, taking the first reps at left tackle. Justin Reed left practice to go to the workout tent and then returned to practice with his helmet and participated. And word is that Justin Reed is fine.
Matt Derrick just tweeted, Justin Reed is fine.
Justin Reed is fine. Justin Reed is fine.
We're good.
Matt Derrick says Justin Reed...
I'm sorry, he did not return to the field. He returned to the sideline, but the Chiefs say he's fine.
Okay, so he returned to the sideline but didn't see him back on the field. After the brief stay in the workout tent, Chiefs say he is the same as the Andrew Benintendi return in the trade. Fine.
It's fine.
They're both fine. Justin Reed is fine. The return on the trade is fine with Benintendi. And I think the defensive line is going to be more fine with Carlos Dunlap now being signed. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, we'll talk with Ken Swanson, but Matt Lane, KC Sports Network, had a tweet about Carlos Dunlap and the impact it might have with George Karlaftis, Josh, that you were mentioning. I don't have the tweet in front of me. I don't know if you have it.
Yeah, Matt was just making the point that, this isn't even just a good thing for the 2022 Chiefs, but that Dunlap really might be kind of a perfect prototype for George Karlaftis to learn under, particularly at this point in Dunlap's career. I'm now editorializing beyond what Matt said, but Dunlap isn't a guy.
That's a lot in one tweet.
That's why I'm editorializing beyond what Matt. It's crazy that he also wrote out my part. But especially at this point in his career, Dunlap never particularly. He's not a particularly bendy guy. He has power. He's good against the run. He can be strong at the point of attack with his hands. Karlaftis should be trying to learn from everybody. You pick whatever you can up and get as many moves in your bag as you can. But I like that from Matt, the idea that that this is a prototypical fit for Karlaftis to learn behind. And you even mentioning last segment, the way that you could see these players ultimately evening each other out in terms of the snap counts and everything. Right out of the gate, you might say, Frank, there is now a chance that George Karlaftis does not have to start week one. I still think he will, but it could be Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap, and then George Karlaftis plays 70% of the snaps but doesn't have to, or it could be the veterans exchanging. Those three guys are all going to play a ton, though, I believe.
Well, when we talk about Spags' defense and what he's known for, and Justin Reed said that 15% of the playbook is in. If you're talking about a weakness on the Chiefs, and they go and address that in training camp, I think it's going to be much easier for that person to come in and get more acclimated quicker by being a defensive end rather than a cornerback or a safety. Whereas McDuffie and Brian Cook and Reed, those guys have a lot on their plate to learn about all of the different intricacies of the secondary, the calls, the motions, the changing of defensive schemes and coverages based on motion and personnel and where they're lined up. Whereas a defensive end, typically it's, okay, you're setting the edge or you're getting after the quarterback. You may have to slide back in coverage very rarely. You may have to, your job is to, if the running back is over by you, to give him a chip as he's going out into the flat. Is it a twist? Is it a stunt? Are there, different things that when you're lining up inside, it's going to be much easier if you're a defensive end to pick up on Spagnuolo's defense than if, they're struggling at cornerback and they bring in a cornerback and, oh, by the way, you've got 3 weeks to figure out the defense, and it's so intricate and it's very difficult for these defensive players to pick up and learn. That's where I think George Karlaftis can have a more immediate impact, because then it's just simply relying on his ability, whereas McDuffie and Brian Cook, it's relying on their ability while also their brain working in concert with their ability and not thinking too much, which then slows you down on the football field and just instinctually playing because you know where you're supposed to be and things like that. So Carlos Dunlap joining, I think a quicker transition, a quicker acclimation to the defense with Spagnuolo, even if it's as intricate as they say it is. 913-912-4810. Do we want to get another break in before we hear from the Chiefs? Okay. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back, and we expect to hear from the Chiefs coming up next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll be talking some Chiefs today, a lot of football today. James Palmer coming up in the noon hour. We'll talk with him about the NFL, the Chiefs, certainly, Kyler Murray's contract, Carlos Dunlap, Patrick Mahomes being a one-read quarterback. What's the interesting think of what the Chiefs have going on with Orlando Brown and that situation right now with him not being at training camp? We'll also hear from the Chiefs. We'll talk with Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast as well. Spagnuolo, Joe Tooney, Chris Jones, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We'll hear from them today. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We'll also be giving away tickets to the 100-year celebration, the WHB 100-year celebration coming up on August 11th at the Midland Theater. That is coming up at. You just want to talk to Beards
Yeah, I could just walk in there, but I was gesturing to Beards, and then Beards said what as if I could respond to him in this, and so when I was whispering to be quiet, say Matt Derrick, it was still on over. It was on over the air.
I'll
come in there, Beards, so you don't get confused.
Awesome dude. I'm going to finish that for you.
Thank you.
Is an awesome dude.
Thank you.
Now, in Beard's defense, he's got a connection with Todd. He's got a computer up. He's running the show. He's got video going on. He's got two hands, but he's having to put those in 8 different places. And then while Brisco is waving his hands to say, hey, I want to talk to you right now, but I don't have a talkback button over there. So Tex wants to know if Dunlap is going to wear number 8. I don't know. I hope so.
He posted on his Instagram a Chiefs 8 jersey.
There you
Say
go.
That when I was talking to Beards.
What's that?
Did you say that when I was talking to Beards?
No, I didn't. Text said, was he? I saw the text. It said, is he going to wear number 8? And then Dylan gave me a thumbs up. So I went with that he would know, and the thumbs up means he's going to wear number 8, or he was thumbs up, I want to know too. Thumbs up to the question. I agree. No, he was telling me thumbs up that he is wearing number 8, and then you came in and said he posted it on his Instagram, which is cool because I'm not on the gram, as the kids call it.
It's kind of funny actually because he posted it's a picture of a number 8 white defense Dunlap jersey. And I said, wow, they know, great selling point too. They really showing love. Where do I sign? And then a little hand signing emoji. So maybe he got the little intangibles there from the Chiefs equipment staff, having a jersey ready before he even officially signed.
Shout out to this text. Credit where credit is due. This texter with receipts, screenshotting their text into the show from June 14th, saying, Carlos Dunlap's a better option over Robert Quinn. When you consider 1, it would require more resources to acquire him, and 2, Dunlap's averaged 8.7 sacks from 2015 to 20. Whereas Quinn has only averaged 6.25. Quinn's 18.5 sacks last season is an outlier. And then texted in and said, see, I tried to tell you guys when you wanted to trade for Quinn. Says, it looks like we're in the season in Glendale. Hey, hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, keep making predictions, man.
Another text comes in and says, Chiefs can't quit Seahawks linemen.
That is maybe the biggest concern of this.
Mm-hmm. It's like the Royals trading with the Padres.
Yeah, right.
Like, just stop. Stop doing it. You know? Chiefs and Seahawks linemen. Frank Clark to Jaron Reed to Carlos Dunlap. Who are the Chiefs going to bring in next year from the Seahawks team this year? Let's look at their roster to see who's going to be on the Chiefs defensive line next year. Tex says, sure getting a lot of play on one anonymous coordinator's comment. Yeah, I mean, but it's such an outlier. Sort of having fun with it. Because 150 different people have weighed in over the last 3 years, and 149 have put him in Tier 1. And damn it, you don't slight QB1 in this town and think it's going to be a day news cycle? Oh, heck no.
We're getting 6 months out of this.
Do you understand what we're going to be talking about in November? Yeah, where's that D coordinator now? That one-read quarterback. Do you understand what Patrick Mahomes is going to say at some point this year? Well, a one-read quarterback, we got to go through different progressions. And I'm trying to get used to that by being a one-read guy. just as Lamar Jackson in his second year, was it rookie year? I know he won MVP second year, but rookie year when he burst onto the scene and people were talking about the play that he had and the numbers he was putting up, and he said, yeah, pretty good for a wide receiver at the quarterback position. Oh, it sticks with him. They know. Like Kyler Murray's going to have something about video games this year, right? He's got to drop something in a post-game press conference or a pre-game or midweek press conference about video games. Oh, it sticks with him. It does. So, yeah, that one comment. Thank you, Spagnuolo, in my conspiracy theory, for giving us that content. Tex says forever it was Chiefs and San Francisco quarterbacks. Not anymore. That's true. That is so true. Joe Montana and Bono and Gerback and Alex Smith. Just throw them all in there.
Patrick Mahomes is going to end his career in San Francisco is what you're telling me?
Uh-huh.
I don't like that.
Same text that said anonymous coordinator's comment says, nobody puts baby in the corner except Jack Del Rio. Then he does. So. Text says, last time we signed a defensive end from Seattle, won the Super Bowl.
Unfortunately, actually, that only counts if you trade way too much and then give way too big of a contract to it.
Yeah.
So this, unfortunately, doesn't guarantee anything.
Okay, well, then let's just say last time the Chiefs brought in a defensive end from Seattle, they won the Super Bowl that year.
But not a defensive lineman from Seattle because Jaron Reed would have thrown that off.
Defensive end.
Okay. You see the Kansas City Mavericks are now a Seattle Kraken affiliate.
Are they?
Today? Yeah.
What is up with the Seattle connection around? Why didn't Benintendi get traded to the Seattle Mariners? Because Santana did, and Frank Clark and Jaron Reed and Dunlap. Now the Kraken. The Mavericks. This is... Man. And it's raining like we live in Seattle.
A lot of Seattle vibes going on right now.
I'll tell you what, man. I feel like after the show today, I'm going to take little man up to the Space Needle.
Do I need to prepare to host tomorrow, or you going to be back in time?
No, not at all.
Day trip to Space Needle?
Text says, what's next? Seattle gets an NBA team before we do?
Hey.
The answer to that is yes.
It is definitely yeah.
It is definitely yes.
I got a little more for you on Dunlap here from Adam Schefter's just dropped an article up on ESPN.com. Some of this is just sort of the nuts and bolts, but I do think it's noteworthy in kind of the context of him with the Seahawks. So the Seahawks released Dunlap on March 18th as their defense continues to transition to more of a 3-4 structure up front. Dunlap is more of a traditional 4-3 defensive end, which likely was a factor in his release. He had 1 year remaining on a 2-year, $13.6 million deal signed prior to the 2021 season. He was set to make up to $5.1 million in 2022. We know that, when you hit free agency, your value increases. That's just how the NFL always works. You have more bidders, it drives your price up. But the Seahawks moved on for a $5 million cap hit. And I don't know how much of that. I'll go see if they have any dead money on him or anything from this year.
I'll look at it right now.
They were not going to pay him in a scheme that didn't necessarily fit him anymore. They didn't give up a ton when they traded for him a year and a half ago with the Bengals. But kind of interesting there. And also I think could just inform what he will make this year from the Chiefs. Because also Melvin Ingram, his final number with the Dolphins was right around $4 or $5 million this year. That one I'll look up right now, and between the two of us, this show's going to get all the numbers right eventually. It's just going to take some stalling.
So Carlos Dunlap has a dead cap hit of 1.4 this year,
and Melvin Ingram signed for his cap hit's just under $4 million.
Yeah.
So all of that seems like about the range. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing there are some not likely to be earned incentives, some likely to be earned incentives, and again, that just changes what year the salary cap hit would be on. So the Chiefs will definitely keep some flexibility here, I'm sure.
Seattle was going to pay him $5 against the cap, and they cut him, so they save 3.6, move on from somebody when they're transitioning to a new defense, and he doesn't fit anyway.
Right.
And then he's got an opportunity to go out, and cash this year would have been $5 million for him, and now it can get up to $8 million. So maybe it's going to be somewhere around 4 or 5 with incentives to get up to 8, whereas with the Seahawks, he probably didn't have those incentives to get him to 8. He was probably sitting at 5, and most incentives had already either been earned or not likely to be earned, and I don't know what the contract breakdown is, looks like as well right now. Beard says,
does it sound like Joe
somebody's talking.
Never mind. Okay, well.
Beard says, somebody was talking, and we lost it. Now it's back. Does it sound like a bunch of cliches?
Is it Joe Tooney or... It sounded like Clyde Edwards-Helaire from the 0.2 seconds I heard in Q there. You want to just turn it up and we'll let you know?
And let's talk over it?
Well, yeah. I mean, last
Clyde
camp,
Edwards-Helaire.
you know, my gallbladder surgery and just kind of, but you know, first camp it was my rookie year, so I would just say it was just last camp, just recovering from you know the gallbladder surgery. But as far as the comfortability, as far as you know, year 3, I'm more relaxed than anything. Just understanding the offense and understanding you know timing of everything, understanding positions of everything, actually learning different positions as far as you know the receiver standpoint, and then understanding what the O-line is trying to get done. It's different when you know you come in and the only thing you're trying to do is just learn your job, and you know it kind of pinpoints certain things, so you only worried about you. But once you get into you know the comfortable feeling of the entire offense and learning the entire concepts of everything, you start to see the bigger picture of everything, and you start to see once things get added on, it's not like, oh, it's an entirely new playbook. It's just like little wrinkles. And then it benefits week to week depending on, you know, who we playing, and it might be something we run out here tomorrow that I might not see again into January. So it's just one of those things that once you understand it, you can do whatever you want to do with it, and then it's nothing confusing. So I'll say that's the most beneficial thing coming into year 3.
Adding to that, Clyde, when you have a whole new offensive line like last year, and now you have most of those guys back this year, is there anything that you're sort of looking for that you want to see that you can tell is part of that continuity when you guys do put the pads on?
Man, the biggest thing is communication. I mean, you can say pinpoint and look at, you know, certain things that everybody's doing, but as long as you can communicate and figure out, you know, what the next guy is doing, I mean, it's 11 pieces working together on one play at that time. So you figure it out, you know, get the calls, they communicate whatever they need to communicate to me, and we execute it. So it's easier coming into year 2, being able to communicate with those guys, and they, you know, they're also understanding the offense, understanding a lot of the terminology that we're using. So that's one of those things that makes it a lot easier. It's just not like, oh, well, you know, last year where I was, we were doing this and we just called it this. So y'all called it this. Like, it's just one of those things. It's just language. So once everybody gets comfortable with that, it gets a lot easier.
How much of the landmarks or the place of where you want certain things, how much do you have a say in sort of adjusting that from year to year, or is it more Coach EB, Andy, you know, obviously Greg, sort of seeing what worked? And
yeah, I feel like man, it's so much film study and you know so many like, oh, well, they are picking up this thing, and you know we're trying to, you know, work this, and if we're trying to get this guy implemented in the pass game a little bit more, and then we have so many more new pieces. The only thing you can do is stick people in play in certain spots, and then see, you know, all right, well, that's a good combination. It's like we got so many weapons. It's to the point to where, you know, we could put. I'm outside, McCole could be in the backfield. You know what I'm saying? We could put 2 forwards. We could put, you know, however you want to do it. It's the whole understanding of the offense, and once you have so many skilled guys that can kind of run anything and get in certain positions, you don't want to switch positions in certain spots, because if it's just me just not, you know, filling a certain spot, and the next guy has to go in and run the same play, just making an adjustment for me is not, you know, beneficial for the offense. So.
I understand that you're going to go where your numbers call. How much damage do you think that you could potentially have in the pass game, be it on the line of scrimmage or in screens and whatnot?
Man, you know, I'm 1,010% confident in my hands. I feel like I'm one of the best pass catchers as far as, you know, running back in the league, and I'll completely stand on that. And that's just one of those things. I feel like Coach EB and Coach Reed they're trying to get implemented. You know, and it's one of Pat's things too. Like, I don't just have to throw it to the receiver. I can throw it to, you know, anybody on the field. I mean, we throw it to O-linemen too. So it's just, that's what we do. Like, we throw the ball to everybody.
What do you think held you back the last few years from being able to show that more, I guess?
You know, it's concepts and personnel. I mean, if 10's 80 yards downfield and I'm running a flat, who you gonna throw it to? You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm gonna throw the touchdown. Like, it's those things that wins games. But you know, that flat might have pulled that wheel back out just so he can get up the field. So it's those things. You know, everything benefits, but it's like once you start adding in certain wrinkles and can implement, you know, me in the pass game as far as being outside and not just running, you know, flats and just from a stationary spot, you know, it gets a lot more fun for me and everybody else.
Do you need more of that without 10, Matt? More routes to you, things like that?
I mean, you know, I'm not one of those guys just like, you know, throw me the ball. Whoever can get the ball thrown. I mean, it's Pat, bro. He might be looking his way and throw it behind his back. Like, you don't know where the ball's going, so it's like, oh, you know, you can't complain about targets and everything else. I'm here. It's 11 guys on the field, and if the ball's flying my way, my job is to catch it and go make a play.
Is that a good experience that you have from LSU, from your LSU days, knowing how talented you all were in that offense? Does that sort of get you in the right frame of mind for this type of experience?
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. I'm not a selfish guy, far from it. And I don't want to say like, you know, I can care less whoever's getting the ball, but it's like, man, if we getting the ball and we getting down the field and we winning games, like, why complain about it? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, some people would be like, you know, I would want the ball, this, but if that's what's working at that time, the next 2 weeks just might be my weeks. So it's like, you can't sit there and dwell on something that's not benefiting, you know, you personally or your ego. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's more important to me. Like, I put on a helmet that says Chiefs, not, you know, it was Elairs, not posted on everything that I have. So it's always about the brand, but it's also about, you know, those guys and the organization who we're playing for.
You mentioned in the past about how much you leaned on Dirk. Now that he's not here, Rojo's the elder statesman in the room. How much are you leaning on him, and what has he brought to that right now?
Man, so, you know, just the benefit of everybody, man. I remember telling Coach Reed, say, man, if you brought a baby in here, you know, I'll be able to learn from him. You know, it's just one of those things. I'm always trying to grab stuff from anybody. But, you know, being able to know that he came from a different organization and was different things were, you know, brought up on him. It could have been nutrition, just anything. Right. You know, I try to pull that. But, you know, the guy that I'm, you know, pulling from the most is Jet. I mean, the guy got drafted in 13. I think I was like in 8th grade or something like that. And he's still playing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I look at that. That's one of them things that I don't bat an eye to it. And I'm completely transparent. Like, Jet, help. You know what I'm saying? Point blank period. That's me. Help me. Let's do this nutrition junk. Let's do this. You know what I'm saying? Normative. Whatever I need to do in order to have my body right. That's how that's always, you know, how I've been. And he's been that guy that's been pinpointing me and kind of lead me in the right direction. And you know, when I know if Jet was coming back, and you know, when I found out Dirty was leaving, TK, I mean, Travis was actually my closest neighbor. So it was like, man, pull up at Travis' house, get some work. You know what I'm saying? And ask him. I mean, who wouldn't want to learn from, you know, the best tight end in the league and how long he's been playing, and, you know, the hit, just it's so much that comes in this league. The only thing you can do is learn. So, you know, that was one of my things. Just try to pull from those guys as much as I can.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Clyde. Yep.
All right, there's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Hopefully it continues to be a healthy offseason, as he says that it has been with gallbladder surgery and other issues in the offseason. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire talking about the biggest thing with the new offensive line communication and what they may have learned from last year. His hands, he believes in them 110%.
No.
Or excuse me, 1,010%. Sorry about that, 1,010%.
He's
Sorry.
I mean, that's incredible mathematically.
Yeah.
Also, a great question here on Twitter. What could you learn from a baby today?
Yeah, I was thinking, honestly, when he said, because he said that before, and when he said there again that I told Andy Reid, look, I just want to learn. You bring a baby in here, I'm going to learn from her. I immediately started thinking, what could I learn from a baby?
Okay, I got 3 or 4 different answers. The good news, I don't think I'm going to have time to make any of those jokes. I don't think I can make any of them here anyway.
Well, let's hear from Joe Tooney right now.
That's for the best.
Nuances and things that go along with it. So, yeah, it's been great, you know, knowing everyone better, and yeah, it's going well so far.
What did your off season look like to kind of give you that
Just trained hard together, you know, got in our playbooks again, you know, evaluated, you know, what we can do to get better, and you know, just tried to, you know, make improvements individually and as a whole, and just try to keep working and improving and building.
Was there anything maybe you've been different this off season compared to years before because without doing the Chiefs? Or?
No, I think, you know, just getting the playbook, you know, working hard, trying to, you know, get physically healthy and everything, and yeah, get prepared.
The coaching staff were to ask you to slide to left tackle. How comfortable do you feel on a day-to-day basis you can do tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, just whatever the coaches want me to play, I'm willing to play. Whatever, just like to play football. It doesn't matter where. Just want to be out there on the field with the guys, and that's kind of the bottom line. Anywhere, just want to play.
How do you feel about how you did at left tackle in that one game against Cincinnati last year?
Yeah, I mean, there's always definitely things to improve on. It was all right. Just wanted to, always things I can get better at, but just kind of a crazy day with that day, and just want to, try and protect and do well in the run game and everything, and always stuff to improve on.
What's your take on Cardi's
Yeah, I mean, just if it helps reduce head injuries, that's always really good, and just kind of just is what it is, and yeah.
Would you continue to wear it after mandatory required times?
I think I'll just have to see how it's going. Once we put the pads on and everything, and see how it goes through that, and just kind of make a decision then. So yeah, just keep going with it. See how it goes.
Is it heavier? Can you notice the heaviness of it?
A little bit, nothing crazy though.
Joe, what do you say to Rodgers so far as left tackle? Where's your conversations with it? How is he performing?
Yeah, for sure, doing really well. Digging in the playbook, communicating a lot, trying to be on the same page in every play, and he's a great guy, and so yeah, just trying to get better every day. So.
Joe, you talked about communication. That's key. How much has the younger guys, which is next to
For sure. Yeah, I think like it was said earlier, kind of it was a new room last year, and I think everyone's kind of understanding. Everyone got a year under their belt with the Creed and Trey, and then the rookies this year are doing a great job too. Getting in the playbook, understanding the offense, and so yeah, I think it's going well, and obviously it's early in training camp, still a lot to get better at and improve on, but so far so good. So.
Joe, I don't know if you've heard, but the Chiefs signed Carlos Dunlap today. You've played against him before. What kind of player are the Chiefs getting?
Yeah, I think just a talented defensive lineman who's been in the league, a veteran of the NFL for a long time, and obviously whatever we have a great staff and GM, and they do a great job of putting trying to put the best team together. So absolute trust in them, and I'm sure it'll be a great addition.
You guys, I don't imagine you guys had much in the way of one-on-one.
Not too much. No. Yeah.
Joe, you mentioned Creed and Trey a couple of questions ago, and over the past couple of days, they've used the word physical. They want to be, they want the Chiefs' offensive line to be known for its physicality. How do you go about developing that mentality? Does it start? Where does it start in the offseason that this is our goal for the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can start all the way back to being OTAs. Just talking about it, watching film, seeing what we can do to improve run game, pass game. The whole aspect of offensive line. You always want to be a physical offensive line. And it takes all five guys, and it starts there, and then you just keep building and building, and obviously, training camp's a great place to, grow it even more, and but it's just kind of a day-to-day thing, and yeah.
Is there kind of like an internal competition who has the most pancakes?
Nothing too crazy or anything, just we always, we as an offensive line want to pride ourselves on being physical and physicality, and getting great movement in the run game, great in the pass game, and so it's constant theme, and we're always striving to get better at it.
There's differences in protecting every quarterback. What did you kind of learn just the keys to protecting the homes, the little things you have to do differently? And did it change your approach during the season last year, or change your approach going into this year?
I think Patrick's a great amazing quarterback, and just never want to see him get hit, or never want him to get hit at all, and it's a team game, and we want to throw up a wall as best we can, and but give him as much time as needed, and so really just kind of the fundamentals stay the same, and just play through the deck of the whistle, and just trying to play with great technique and physicality and effort, and yeah.
Does it require a little more running, protecting Mahomes and maybe some other guys?
I mean, just always try and play through the deck of the whistle, so however long the play is, that's just block forever, and that's pretty much the mindset. Yeah.
Joe, I don't know if you heard any of these comments just earlier this week
think anything about that when you see Pat play?
No, I don't know. He's like I said, an amazing quarterback. Has amazing plays, and his production speaks for itself. And I'm just glad to be playing, with him. And it makes it really fun at practice, and brings a lot of great energy and focus. And he's so detailed, and so he's just nothing but great things to say about him.
A couple more, all right. Jessica, you have a better appreciation knowing that Andrew Wiley started his career at guard, and now he's considered the starting right tackle. Just how difficult that is, given your one day sort of on the spot.
Yeah, for sure. He plays right side, left side, guard, tackle. He's always comes in, brings a great work ethic. Veteran of this team, veteran of this offense. He's done a great job over the years and continues to do so, and it's really fun playing with him.
Picture, how do you think the run game can be better this
Yeah,
year?
like I said, there's always things to improve, and as offensive line, we always want to get more movement, more open up bigger holes, and do a better job, and create those lanes for the runners, and I think I'll take a closer look and see, but there's always things we can get better at.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, there's Joe Thuney, and I do want to let people know that we did not have an issue with our connection there. That was just Joe Thuney's motherboard reacting to the rain that was taking place there. One of two things.
He's incredible.
It is awesome. It is a masterclass.
Incredible.
There are two things two different types of press conferences from a player that I want to hear. Either Justin Reed, that is like really good, or Joe Thuney, that we have fun in just the answers are essentially the same thing and same words, just like moved around in different sentences, no matter what the question is. What'd you have to eat today? Well, I'm just trying to always improve on my nutrition. I'm
trying
to get better.
Whatever the echo of the whistle.
Whatever the coaches want me to do. If it's eat some poultry, if it's some steak, if it's a salad. I'm just here to get better. And there's 11 guys out there that are all trying to eat at the same time. So we just got to execute.
I want to make this very clear. I'm not making fun of Joe Thuney.
No,
here.
not at all.
I say this respectfully and with some amount of admiration. I think all of the people in that tent today just had the same experience that every defensive tackle who Joe Thuney goes up against goes through. You're just like, well, let me try this, and I'll try to get through. He's like, nope, sorry, just let me not even breaking a sweat. Just gonna go ahead and block you over there. Okay, well, Joe, what about trying to go this way? I'll do a little rip move. I'll ask you about the helmets you're wearing, spin move, and it's just always a brick wall. He's incredible.
I kind of want to pull the clip earlier in the show when I said that we would hear from Joe Thuney and he would be asked about Orlando Brown, and then I gave my answer as Joe Thuney compared to what Joe Thuney then actually said when he said, "Oh, whatever the coaches want me to do, I just want to go out and play football."
Your answer was too enthusiastic.
It's all right.
It really was.
Right.
Like he is a machine, and I largely mean that as a compliment.
Yep. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Another machine is Ken Swanson as they continue to just put out content after content after content. The KC Sports Network and KC Laboratory Podcast. Ken Swanson next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You know what makes me nervous about today's show?
Where do we begin?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with James Palmer coming up at noon. Or maybe later. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Sports or Leisure coming up today. We do know that coming up at around 1 o'clock or so, presented by Johnny's Tavern. Let's talk with Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast, joining us here in the zone. Kent, welcome in, man. I appreciate it. Is there anything that you could learn from a baby? Because I've been trying to think, and I don't know that I can.
Did Josh ask this question?
No, I mean, we both looked at each other, and we just started sort of looking into the air and kind of wondering, and like, what could you learn from a baby? I'm not sure. I would love somebody to ask Edwards-Helaire what might be something you could learn.
I don't know. Like, I mean, there's probably, maybe not taking things so seriously all the time. Maybe finding, some chill in your life. I don't know. I don't think there's much.
Yeah. Not sure which babies you're around, but there's not much chill in some of the babies. My daughter wasn't much chill in her. The little things always bothered her. But yeah, I don't know what you can learn. But Edwards-Helaire, he is that much of a sponge that anybody he's around, he can learn from. So, and he trusts his hands 1,010%.
Is there anything in your life you trust 1,010%?
Nope.
No, not 1,010%. No. All right, so Kent, let's get into a conversation around the Chiefs and what happened today. Carlos Dunlap signed by the Chiefs. We don't know the full extent and the details of the contract. We just know it's 1 year, up to $8 million. What's your reaction and takeaway from Carlos Dunlap now being a Chief?
I think the Chiefs got better today. And I don't think there's very many guys out there right now that can make this team better. So, grabbing one of those available veterans that can actually make somewhat of an impact in some capacity to help this team, achieve what they're trying to at the end of the year. Like, I love that Carlos Dunlap's in the mix here. And I think the Chiefs obviously looked at the pass rush situation, the edge group. Not that they just looked at it yesterday and realized, we got to get better. I think they've known. I think they've known what they have and the unproven nature of most of that group. I mean, even George Karlaftis was unproven. So they went and added the probably best pass rusher available, I think, in this for them. And I think he's a great fit. I'm really excited to see him maybe even as early as tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, look, they needed somebody. We know that. It's been a constant theme and a conversation we've had throughout the offseason is what's going to happen at defensive end. Is it just going to be Frank Clark and George Karlaftis? And I do wonder how much they thought Melvin Ingram was going to be a part of their plans, and he's now with Miami. It's interesting because it comes a day after the restructure of Travis Kelce comes to light when they're adding $3 million to the salary cap this year. So they go from $11 million under, roughly, to now around $8 million under, roughly, with Kelce. And then they add in Carlos Dunlap the next day, and it's up to $8 million. So there's got to be a good portion of that that's going to be not likely to be earned. But I think it's interesting, and I don't know if there's any connection to it, but it's interesting. Back-to-back days, they've gone from $11 million down to $8 million, and then maybe down to $3 or $4 million.
Yeah, and I mean it's the same day Robert Quinn reports to camp yesterday. So I mean, maybe they were in on the Robert Quinn situation, and things kind of started taking a different direction there, and the Chiefs went and looked at potentially their next best option there at the edge position. I mean, there's a lot of factors that could come into play there when you're kind of looking at the totality of the situation. It seems like maybe, I don't know, if one's off the board there, and so now they go to their next option, and it's Carlos Dunlap. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like, the Chiefs are settled into where they're at. They weren't able to come to an agreement with Orlando Brown Jr., and maybe that changed some of their plans here. And now they're sitting with, a little bit of cap space. The teams normally try to come in with a little bit, so they're ready to do whatever they need to do. in the offseason. They kind of have their buffer now, and that might be about it. I mean, this might be more or less what this football team looks like for the rest of the year.
What do you expect? He's been signed for 5 minutes, but what do you think his role will end up being for this team, Dunlap's?
I mean, he probably plays 40% of the snaps. I think he's just a solid rotational piece, and there's a lot of value there. I think we talked about this on the show a little bit last night. I think he raises the floor of this edge group more than he necessarily raises the ceiling. But I think raising that floor is extremely valuable because, you've got a guy with proven ability, a guy that's very good against the run, a guy that can provide some juice as a pass rusher, maybe a little bit of some effort sacks, but he's a guy that has, the capabilities to play at a very capable level. And that's extremely valuable when you're looking at Frank Clark, who was late to the first practice because of illness. You're looking at George Karlaftis, who exceptional motor, really, really intriguing option there. But, it's still very, very improving. And then everything after that is, Mike Dana is a fine rotational piece. I think Carlos Dunlap fits in perfectly as a guy who plays, 40% of the snaps, plays well against the run, provides a little juice, and adds a veteran experience that's going to help George Karlaftis learn, and I think just add some length to that group.
And the only time he hasn't ended up with 6 or 7, 8, 9 sacks in a season, or even pacing towards that, was when he had, 8 games and only 1 sack with the Bengals when he was unhappy and wanted out, and there was a lot of discussion about what they would do with Dunlap and not wanting to be there. And then he got traded to the Seahawks, and he had 5 sacks in 7 games, and he has 8.5 last year. He has been just incredibly consistent, even with limited reps the last couple of years and playing, 45% of the reps and going, slowly progressing or, digressing from, 70, 60% down to where we expect him to be this year. He's been so consistent that he's been able to put pressure on the quarterback and bring the quarterback down, which is a technique that he could certainly teach some of the other Chiefs defensive players because that matters to get there. But the consistency, I think, has been what's pretty impressive for Dunlap each year. He's sort of kind of expected level of production, at least numbers-wise.
Sure, and he's getting up there. So, I don't know if I'm going to have the same kind of expectations for what he's been able to do in the past. But the Chiefs don't need him to be what he's been, even as recently as last year, for this to be a good move and a move that makes sense. Because just adding some stability. If he has, a 20% decline in production this season, he's still a very valuable tool, and he's probably better than a lot of the options that the Chiefs have when it comes to the depth of the edge position. But, hopefully he continues to play at the level that he has been. At some point he's going to fall off, but, hopefully the Chiefs can get the last little bit of what he's got left in him. I think he's 33 years old, which is ancient and makes me feel old because I'm 33. But, I think even 80% of what he's been to this point is still valuable for this football team.
Visiting with Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. So it was an interesting way of describing it in that it raises the floor, not necessarily the ceiling for this team by adding Carlos Dunlap. What can the ceiling be? A defensive line. What can the ceiling be, do you think, for this defensive line? If Dunlap raises the floor but not necessarily the ceiling, what do you think that ceiling looks like on this defensive line?
Well, I think he raises it a little bit, but he's raising the floor more than he is the ceiling. So, I think this group, the stability he provides allows some of these guys to maybe grow and progress a little bit better without having to play the same amount of snaps. Maybe like a George Karlaftis. But, I do still think that this group it's going to be better than last year's group, I think. I don't think that's a high bar to clear, but I think we've got, I think we're at a point where this defensive end group is better than what the Chiefs had, this time last year. So, Melvin Ingram, he had his flashes, he had his moments, but from a play-to-play basis, he wasn't necessarily the most consistent, kind of faded as the game went on. Made some splash plays for sure, and his impact was definitely felt. But I think Dunlap can provide a little bit more of a play-in, play-out consistency to this group, and they're going to need it with George Karlaftis. But I think George Karlaftis is the guy that's really going to raise the potential ceiling of this group, if that makes sense. So Dunlap can provide stability. He may not have the same kind of energy and juice that a guy like Karlaftis has. But like I think now you're just kind of looking at Karlaftis as being the guy that there's no pressure on him, but if he hits and he's able to play at a consistent level in the amount of snaps that he's allotted, that's where your ceiling comes in.
Yeah, they exchanged Okafor and Ingram for Karlaftis and Dunlap now, so they're better.
Yeah.
Defensive line.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Like, this is a better group. Again, though, like, that's,
it's on paper.
That's not saying much.
Yeah, that's true. It's they're better than last year, the team that finished last in sacks. Okay, or 29th in sacks last year. So, cool. That's great. What do you make of, we're talking about the defensive line and Dunlap's sack to pressure rate, which is much better than anybody else on the Chiefs a year ago. Is there anything you can sort of surmise or take away from the fact that the Chiefs' pressure rate under Spagnuolo has continued to increase, that they were 20th in 2019 in pressure percentage? They were 12th in 2020. Last year they were 5th in pressure percentage, yet sacks went from 11th to 19th to 29th. Is there anything you can sort of glean from that the pressures are going up and the sacks are continually going down? Any theory you can come up with looking at those two things going in the opposite direction of what I guess traditional thinking would be that they would?
I mean, the ball gets out. The ball gets out of the hands of quarterbacks pretty quick. So, like, there's a little bit of that there. And teams have been willing to throw and make some challenging throws outside the numbers. I mean, you think about like the Bengals game. I mean, the Chiefs were, Joe Burrow's challenging outside the numbers, getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and there's probably a little bit, to be said there. The Chiefs welcome and invite some of those outside throws a little bit, especially with the two high structures. So it could be a little bit of the ball getting out of their hands a little bit too, a little bit quicker. I'd like to see time to throw over the last 3 years just to kind of see that. But I really can't. It sounds like an anomaly. It sounds weird. You would think process, continually sticking to that process, good things will happen. But maybe they just haven't been able to bring them down. I don't know. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, visiting with Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. So now that we look at the team overall, and one of the big storylines and questions that people had was about the defensive line, and now we'll be watching for number 8 out there on the field in Carlos Dunlap when he's out there, more than likely tomorrow, if not then over the weekend. What are the storylines that you're looking at? Trying to just get an idea from different people we have on the air. What are the storylines and things that you specifically will be focusing on and want to see if you can get an answer or two from as the Chiefs go through the next few weeks in St. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I think the secondary is one of the things I'm most curious about, especially since, Rashad Fenton, for, what he is, I mean, he's been a solid player, but the safety net's gone in that regard, and a lot of young guys are getting thrown into the fire. You're getting to see Trent McDuffie right off the bat. You're getting to see Joshua Williams right off the bat. I'm fascinated to see, like, the secondary, which has largely been overhauled, kind of getting eyes on that group, because there's a lot of youth, there's a lot of talent, there's some intriguing, skill sets part of that group that you're just kind of seeing who's meshing, who's figuring it out, who's playing fast, who's been, be able to kind of pick things up. You're kind of getting some answers there. So, like, that's one of the big storylines I'm paying attention to is, is the secondary. Also, I mean, if we're looking on the offensive side of the ball, it's the wide receiver room, and what the roles kind of start shaking out from that group too. It's, like there's some interesting players. It looks like Juju's looking real good so far. But some of the other guys are kind of flashing a little bit too. You're seeing Sky Moore. So getting to see how their roles kind of manifest over the next couple weeks, I'm really interested in that as well.
Anything to read into when Edwards-Helaire was talking about, just everybody out on the field and the different playmakers they have and players they have and kind of getting used to everybody, doing different things and saying, well, I can line up, in the out wide and, McCole can get the ball or 24 can be in the backfield. 24 Sky Moore. Do we read anything in too much into that with Edwards-Helaire, or was he just sort of throwing different things that they could do out there when he mentions 24 could line up in the backfield?
I mean, Sky's got the thighs to do it, man. That boy he's built. He is a well-built kid. And, I mean, this is the second straight day it's been alluded to that maybe Sky Moore's getting the ball a little bit in some different places. And,
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be all that surprising. Like, I don't, I think we might even talk about this a little bit yesterday, but I don't think it's the Debo kind of situation, the Debo Samuel situation where, Sky's going to be there as much as it is. Maybe look at Tyreek Hill year one, where his rookie year they ran some concepts for him. It wasn't necessarily trying to bang between the tackles. It was he was getting some opportunities on some counter plays and some of that kind of stuff. But it's something to definitely monitor. I mean, Andy's very good about stealing stuff he likes and stuff he sees, and then adding his own personal spin on some of these concepts that are out there. I mean, Sky Moore is a guy that is well built to handle some of that stuff. So I'm definitely my ears are perked because this is the second straight week we've heard something second straight day we've heard something in that capacity.
Yeah, and who was it that just said what do you about Sky Moore? He said tackle breaker, something along those lines. So. We'll see. Certainly seems the players like what Sky Moore has to offer. Last one for you real quick. If you're making a prediction, does Orlando Brown practice in St. Joe?
No. Okay. I think the cutoff date for St. Joe is about when he shows up.
Okay.
And so we're not really going to get great eyes on him until week one, which is going to be a very fascinating thing to observe there.
Yeah. So he's essentially telling the Chiefs, "I'll see you back here in KC." All right, you guys enjoy St. Joe. I'll see you back here. Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. Kent, you're the man. Very much appreciate the time, sir. We'll be reading and looking at all the observations and everything that you guys have there at KCSN, and, of course, the podcast you're talking about, KC Laboratory Podcast. Kent, thank you so much for the time, man. Very much appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate not having to talk to Josh once the entire time I was on.
I snuck in and said, have you ever believed in anything 110%? And you said no. That was my question you answered, Kent.
Yeah, and then I glared at Beards for his mic being on.
Yeah, I will be disciplined during the break for that, but it was worth it.
No, Beards will be disciplined. You can't control yourself. Beards can.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I appreciate the level of self-discipline that I don't have to show on this show.
I'm not getting mad at Dan Sorensen and Ryan O'Hearn.
Yeah.
I'm mad at the coaching staff and the front office for putting them in there.
Great point.
It's not their fault.
Great point.
That bad.
Beards' fault.
Not Josh's fault that he can't resist a microphone in front of his face.
Microphone, I start talking. I don't know what to do.
Yes, it's Beards' fault. Kent, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir.
Yep, anytime. Good talking to you guys.
Absolutely.
Bye,
There's Kent Swanson, KC Sports Network. He already hung up. Okay.
Bye, Kent. If you're listening, you're watching on the stream, I miss you.
All right. KC Sports Network, KC Laboratory Podcast. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this hour. Then we'll hear from James Palmer, NFL Network. Still to come here in the Zone on a Thursday. It's Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I've got control of all these knobs over here.
Wow.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, so we'll talk with James Palmer coming up at noon. The one thing about training camp is this is not the time to see breaking news and your team on the ticker.
No kidding.
You don't want to see that. It has happened for one team out there, not the Chiefs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Breaking news. Starting center Ryan Jensen has been carted off the field. One of the bigger free agents. I mean, he was the number one interior offensive line free agent last year. With the Bucs, but then a free agent. He signed a 3-year, $40 million contract with the Bucs. Number 12, Pro Football Focus ranked free agent overall.
Also, worth keeping in mind is Orlando Brown is not at training camp right now. Stuff happens.
Yeah, I mean,
that
absolutely.
contract timing, that matters.
Yeah, so sucks for teams that are Ravens went through this last year, got just ravaged by that. James Palmer next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. You're in the zone. We've got Sports or Leisure coming up an hour from now. It's presented by Johnny's Tavern. $25 we give away in Johnny's Tavern and a gift card for Sports or Leisure. We'll hear from Steve Spagnuolo, Chris Jones coming up this hour as well. Right now, talking some NFL football from NFL Network. It is James Palmer joining us here in the zone. James, how are you, sir?
I'm good, guys. And don't get upset with me, right? I'm standing at Broncos practice right now with my man, Jeff Chadia. We were just shooting the breeze. So this is kind of like I don't want to say like an uncomfortable thought process for everyone involved right now, but we love you guys. We just have to see every team in the division.
No, actually, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this week is just, we have every single area and blade of grass covered with Chiefs training camp, right? Everything going on. We've got 50 different people that are tweeting out observations and things like that. But, the Broncos, brand new with Russell Wilson and what the offense is going to be like and a new coach. So I definitely want to pick your brain on that and things you've learned from training camp. But first, I do want to get your thoughts on the impact if the Ryan Jensen injury in Tampa is serious. I had talked before the break, James, that this is the time that you don't want to see breaking news and your team listed with the breaking news in training camp. And that was the Bucs today. Starting center carted off the field. They don't know the severity, but those are usually ominous signs. What's the impact there to the Bucs if they lose Jensen for an extended period of time?
It's massive. It's massive. It's one of the reasons Tom wanted to come back, the relationship he has with Ryan. I have a good relationship with Ryan. He's one of the better guys in this league. He's also one of the tougher guys in this league. So when I was talking to people in Tampa after I heard it happened and hearing his reaction, and that kind of got me a little worried, right, when you see a guy that's as tough as Ryan is and he's losing it on the field the way he was with slamming his helmet and the reaction from the rest of the team coming over. He's one of those guys that's just, extremely valuable that maybe the very casual fan doesn't understand. And I think it's compounded by the loss of Alex Kappa going over to Cincinnati. That interior part of their offensive line was really, really good. And Alex is another one of those really tough guys who, was a first-day free agency target for Cincinnati, and he heads over there. And I think we saw, and we know how important, obviously, an offensive line is. We know how quickly Tom gets rid of the football. But if you remember in that playoff game against Philadelphia when Tristan Wirfs had the ankle injury and how different that changed that offensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Philly was getting a ton of pressure, obviously not really in the game, but it really changed once Tristan was having some issues. We always know the teams try to get to Tom up the middle because of his ability to step up in the pocket. Coming from the outside, it's a little bit different against him. He's one of the best guys in the league at stepping up in the middle. And you lose Ryan, considering the communication that him and Tom have. And over the last year, when I've talked to Ryan, he's like, Tom and I see it exactly the same. I mean, we're making calls that, we were exactly on the same page all the time. So if that's something, hopefully it's not, but it would be massive for Tampa Bay, in my opinion.
James Palmer's our guest from NFL Network. Again, I want to get your thoughts on the Broncos here in a second. But what does the industry think of, larger, 10,000-foot view? What does the industry think of the Chiefs situation with Orlando Brown and what's been going on? And he's holding out. He's not at camp. They can't do anything. They can't sign him because it's the franchise tag, and we know all of that stuff, but he's still not at camp. What's the view around the league as to the way the Chiefs approached it and Orlando Brown and what's going on currently?
He's got some company, so that always helps you, right? If you're the only guy, that always makes you stand out a little more. He's got Jesse Bates with him, who's still doing the same thing in Cincinnati. Who, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I got absolutely roasted on Good Morning Football when I had the take about how important Jesse Bates is to Cincinnati, and everybody just destroyed me. So I guess in Cincinnati they're on the side of the organization. In Kansas City, I would say the perception is a little bit more on the side of the Chiefs and as an organization, and I think Orlando should be careful. Andy's pulled the tag before in the past, and just been like, all right, we'll move on. And I think he sent a message. I think we always say, right, Andy can sometimes say a lot with saying a little, and when he came out that first day and said, we could put Joe Thuney at left tackle, we're fine.
In a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat, yeah. That is, in my opinion, and knowing, covering Andy for a long time, that is hey, you better get here or we're going to move on. And I think the perception of the people that are kind of in the know around the league is I think Orlando's numbers were a little high for what they were getting. But at the same time, I know everybody wants to get the most that they can possibly get. but I do think the Chiefs were, I'll say, reasonable for sure with their offer.
James Palmer's our guest from NFL Network. They signed Carlos Dunlap today, free agent from the Seattle Seahawks. Spent the last year and a half with Seattle, the previous number of years in his career with the Bengals. Hopefully he's still got some juice in the tank from the Chiefs' perspective. 1-year deal up to $8 million. What do you think he can bring to the table for what is the biggest weakness on this team is the defensive line and pressuring the quarterback and sacking the quarterback? Can Carlos Dunlap offer that much of an impact and a difference for this team, or just sort of a depth rotational guy?
I think the second part's probably the more realistic one, right? I mean, usually that guy isn't sitting there right before camp or right when you start camp. If around the league the perception is that he's really going to bring you something. Obviously, things can change, scheme can and fit, and who's around you can always play a part. But I think this has been my concern with the Chiefs for, this entire offseason, essentially. I know obviously getting George Karlaftis is great. Not playing around with Chris Jones inside and outside like it was last camp and letting him do what he does best. I think they need more out of Frank Clark, what has happened over the last couple of seasons. And we all know the way Spags works. It's getting after the quarterback, and he loves to find ways to do it. But you still also, with these quarterback play that's in the AFC, you got to find ways to do it without bringing extra guys. And because so many of these guys, I mean, Russell Wilson, we can talk to him. He's over my left shoulder right now. They can pick you apart when you got to bring extra guys. And so getting home with 4 is always huge. And that's why I look at it's a concern with Denver a little bit, and I think it's a concern with Kansas City because you look at the way those other pass rushers are on the other 2 teams in the division, and those are some wild duos.
Absolutely.
In Vegas and in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. We're visiting with James Palmer, NFL Network. So you are there at Broncos camp, and you're talking to Williams and Gordon and doing the 100-yard walk, which I thought was interesting. And Russell Wilson's been a guy that we've discussed in the offseason about what the AFC has done and loading up on talent, and absolutely in the AFC West. What is just the addition of it? Not even looking at the difference in coaching, but just the addition of Russell Wilson from Drew Lock and Bridgewater and different guys to now Russell Wilson as the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it's been multiple seasons of a quarterback competition to start training camp, right? I mean, not just one quarterback competition. They've had multiple seasons over the last 6 years that they've started the season with a quarterback competition. They've started 11 quarterbacks since Peyton Manning retired in 2015. I mean, that's stability that is not there. And so what he has already brought, and it's interesting I brought up Peyton because I've talked to a number of people that have worked for the Broncos, even outside of football operations, that were here when Peyton was here, and they're like, it's the exact same feel. It is a guy that wants to know what goes on inside your business side of the building, what goes on in ticket sales, it's a CEO type of mentality. And that's why Russ and Peyton get along so well, and that's why Russ picked Peyton's brain when he was trying to decide where to go and what his thoughts were on Denver, because they're wired similarly. I mean, they never stop working, they never stop leading. That's what this offense needs. It's a team that's very young. It's a team that, and I think this is a great perception from their general manager and George Payton, that he wouldn't have made the aggressive play for Russell Wilson if he didn't think the rest of the team and the foundation of that talent was put in place, or else he wouldn't have went to the lengths he did to get Russ. So they think they have a very good roster, but it's young and it's inexperienced with no playoff experience. And I'd like to go out here and see how many guys have beaten the Chiefs in their NFL career. There's not many of them on this field. So what he does is he brings a confidence to them. I mean, he stitched a Lombardi Trophy to his cleats for training camp. I mean, I think that's putting some expectations to this group, but I think you're seeing a more confident receiving group that's young, that's talented, but he has already changed the culture of the building for sure.
Well, the last quarterback to do that and beat the Chiefs was Peyton Manning, who you were just talking about. So it has been a while. James Palmer, NFL Network, is our guest. What do you expect from the offense from the Broncos and what it's going to look like? I said last year that I don't like that Javonte Williams ended up in Denver because I think he's a problem. I think Melvin Gordon is good, but I think Williams is the star there if he got the ball more often than not. But Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, those guys, we'll see if Albert O can step into that spot at tight end. What do you expect from this offense? Balance, maybe more letting Russ cook, maybe more relying on Melvin Gordon and Williams the way that they did in Seattle? What is your expectation for this?
Yeah, well, I've talked to Nathaniel Hackett about it. I mean, they're going to take their shots. They definitely love his deep ball. Actually, they loved his deep ball, obviously, on film like everybody. But when he got here in OTAs and minicamp, and I talked to some coaches, they were like, it's better than I thought it was. I mean, this deep ball is ridiculous. But at the same time, they are going to run the ball because they know how good Javonte Williams is. And I'm right there with you. I think this guy's an emerging star in the NFL. I think there's a stat. I don't like to say stats on these things, but one is crazy to me. He had 63 broken tackles last year. Jonathan Taylor led the NFL with 66. Jonathan Taylor had over 100 carries more than Javonte Williams last season. I mean, if that shows you kind of what kind of problem he can be. I talked to Javonte yesterday, and you mentioned the 100-yard walk. They're going to use both backs at the same time. They're going to use a million different formations. I think you go up and look at what Nathaniel Hackett did with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. I think what he wants to do, the biggest part of this offense, is get the ball out of Russ's hands quicker. If he wants to play 10 more years, he's got to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that each and every year with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron's release started getting quicker. He started improvising less. We know Russ loves to play off script, and we know he can do it. But if you talk to Hackett and what he did with Aaron, it's like it takes a little bit off your plate, right, mentally, having to always search for every matchup. The offense is going to be designed to have multiple answers, even if Russ makes a mistake. And I think that makes your quarterback play with a little bit less pressure on them, having to do everything themselves. And that's the hope. But I do think people in Denver's expectations are a little too high. I mean, I look at I look at what Hackett and Aaron Rodgers did in that first year, which was great. They still went 13-3. Go look at his numbers in the next 2 years, and that's where things really took off. And if you ask people around the league, they'll tell you Russ is more of a rep guy. He grows by that. So I would think next season is the year that I'm really looking at the Denver Broncos. Doesn't mean they won't be in every game this year and won't be competitive and won't have double-digit wins. All those things are very possible. I just think the expectations of a Lombardi are a little high, considering the Chiefs are still in this division.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have won 6 straight, and Justin Herbert and Derek Carr and the Raiders got better. Everybody got better. It's the best division in football. It's going to be an absolute blast to cover this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast to see what happens in the different games as well. So definitely that. If memory serves, I believe 45 of those broken tackles for Javonte Williams were against the Chiefs in the 2 games. if I'm thinking back, just off the top of my head, James.
Off the top of the head, you did the math.
I haven't really counted. I'm just remembering every time he touched the ball. James Palmer, NFL Network, is our guest. Last one for you. We've talked about it the last few days around here, just in different ways of discussing it. But Patrick Mahomes, a one-read quarterback. What do you make of the veteran defensive play caller that Patrick Mahomes, one read, doesn't see it, then he plays street ball?
You know, some of the quotes in that, is that out of the Sando piece?
Yeah.
Like, some of the quotes in that are just, they don't really make any sense. But also, I know everybody has their opinion. I know everybody's disgruntled, and I'd be disgruntled too if I didn't have Patrick Mahomes for the next decade as my quarterback. I just knowing the way Pat's wired, knowing how he operates, knowing how he sees things, I do think the first season he got all the credit, right? And it was a remarkable first season as a starter and winning the MVP and all the stats he put up. And then it seems like as time has gone on, credit's gone away from him and more towards Andy.
Yeah.
Right? Like it almost seems like they're taking some credit away from him. Well, you are with a Hall of Fame coach. Well, it's like, well, no, man, like the guy's still doing it. I think even though statistically it wasn't his greatest, I think his last year was his best year because he got forced to play differently than he had in his football life. And the way he had to force to change, to throw underneath stuff, take what the defense gives him, find the tight window throws. Trust me, he is not a one-read quarterback by any means. And I think the adjustments he made last year, I think Andy will tell you that's maybe the best you've seen him play because he had to change his game. And he still has the other part of his game. I think that's ludicrous to put that word out there. But yeah, I knowing the way he studies and sees things and his contributions in the room by talking to people that are in there, there's a lot more to Patrick Mahomes than a big arm and a guy that can scramble and make plays.
Well, knowing that Patrick Mahomes sees everything as well and takes notes and remembers and finds motivation and everything, my theory is that it was Spagnuolo that said it. Just put it out there. It's like, I don't worry, Andy, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. I get this quote. Wait till you see this quote in Mike Sando's athletic piece. Wait till you see this, Andy. I got you.
I'm gonna ask him when I come to KC on the 8th. I think it is. Mooch and I are coming to town.
Okay.
To host for NFL Network from Kansas City. Hopefully we get Spags, and I'm gonna say, listen, I heard a rumor that you're the one stirring all this Patrick Mahomes stuff up, Spags.
Hey, you know what? It's whatever works, whatever works. Just trying to win a Super Bowl. That's it.
Find that
man.
motivation everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yep, exactly.
James Palmer, the NFL Network. James, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for carving a few minutes out for us. Have some fun there with the Broncos training camp, and look forward to seeing you up here in St. Joe on the 8th.
Yeah, can't wait to get there, guys. Couple stops in between, but I'm excited to get back.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. Take care.
All right, there's James Palmer from the NFL Network, and he is there with the Broncos training camp, and he'll be making his rounds in other places as well. But the Chiefs, St. Joe, coming up on August 8th, he'll be broadcasting with NFL Network and doing the shows from St. Joe's. So looking forward to that. But wanting to pick his brain on some things that are going on with the Chiefs, certainly, but also he's there in Denver. It is a rival. They play 2 games against him, and it's one that has been, it's either an overlooked team or like a sexy pick. And I was getting ready to ask him, like, are people overlooking the Broncos this year in talking about the Chargers and, of course, the Chiefs, obviously, but the Bills and Bengals? And that was gonna be my next question. And then he said, I just think people's expectations in Denver are too high for this year. I thought, okay, well, I don't need to ask the question then. You just answered it without me even asking it. And him saying, I feel like next year is more of the year to look at. And as he said, it's not like they can't win double-digit games or not like they can't be there, maybe even make the playoffs. But if you're looking at like how good people in Denver think this season and this team is going to be, I think the expectations are too high. That coming from James Palmer. So then I didn't have to ask, like, sexy pick? Are people overlooking this Broncos team? Apparently people in Denver are not, and he thinks the expectations are too high, and I wonder if those expectations are like, hey, this team is going to win the division with Russell Wilson. They had 5 losses by a score last year that now you just change the quarterback out and you add in Randy Gregory, and this defense is good, and they're going to do the exact same thing they did a year ago and just change those losses into wins because of the quarterback, which, by the way, could be the case. Both things could be true. Like Denver's expectations or fans' expectations might be too high this year for the Broncos. They also might be a team that makes the playoffs, finishes second, or maybe even wins the division, because this division is going to be tough, man. It's going to be attrition. It's going to be a play here or there. It's going to be who does whatever in the fourth quarter. And you survive. You simply survive the division, win it. And I still think the Chiefs do that, but we'll see what happens. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and hopefully hear from Spags and Chris Jones. We've got Sports or Leisure at 1 o'clock. A lot of stuff still to get into. A lot more fun to have here on this Thursday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Not sure what that returner was, but I appreciate it.
You don't recognize that voice? Doesn't just immediately come to you? Can we have Jason guess?
Was it a burp or was it a?
Yeah, a little bit of both, maybe.
It's like a filler.
Yeah. I think Jason might get it if you really listen. This is
okay.
Well, I'll give you a hint if you need it.
No
hints yet.
No hints yet.
No hints yet.
Try it again. Russell Wilson.
No.
Oh.
This is the voice of someone who you've heard on a press conference.
Russell Wilson. I was right.
No, it's still. Why would that make you right?
It's not PM2, right?
No. One more time, Pierce. You're on the right organization.
Okay.
One more go.
I don't know.
Brett Veach.
Really? Yeah, I guess. I mean, I can hear the butt.
It was just. It was during some press conference. Beards might remember which one it even was. I don't.
Oh no, that I don't remember.
But it was just sort of a strange noise that he made mid press conference.
Okay.
And so we used that anytime we needed the shortest possible liner, because that just got us back to the show as quickly as possible for like the end of the hour or something.
Because I could tell, like when you first hear, like I could tell the butt, like the butt stood out. But then after that, it was the stutter that took place after the butt.
Got Spags here. Chris Jones. You want to talk about Andrew Benintendi?
I thought that was Brett Veach that did that. It was Brett Veach. But do you see where I'm coming from? Play it again. Does it sound like we just talked about Denver and Russell Wilson? So does it sound a little bit like Russ?
I can hear it.
Unlimited.
I can hear him going, but let's ride or whatever.
Limited. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
Look, you locked it on the butt, and that's what you're good for, right? You're good at that, and
typically,
I don't know what else to tell you.
Typically, that's what happens.
Sometimes you got to listen to the rest of it.
I'm trying to just figure out what was being said, and the only thing that I could really tell from that sound was the butt. After that, it could have been anybody.
You have an incredible talent.
The butt separates the whole thing. Everything else blends together but the butt. Carlos Dunlap, just as a quick little aside, and we'll hear from Spags talking about Carlos Dunlap, but just as an idea of what his role is going to be, and I think most everybody is on the same page with what Dunlap's role is going to be, where probably Frank Clark first and second down, and Dunlap comes in and either subs for Frank Clark.
You almost did it.
Yep. Or he goes inside. Or Frank Clark does, or whatever it might be. Because the last 2 years combined, 2020 and 2021, so a year and a half with the Seahawks and a half a year with the Bengals, he had 718 pass rush snaps, 290 against the run. 718 against the pass, 290 against the run. And I can promise you some of those 290 against the run might have been passing situations that they ended up handing off, where he was out there for a run. Compare that to his last full year with the Bengals in 2019, 387 pass rush, 313 run. So darn near 50-50. It's been almost exclusive as it gets for a rotational guy that's coming in to help out with the pass rush. And I think that's what the Chiefs are getting as well. Is Carlos Dunlap, a guy who can put pressure on the quarterback, who has shown the ability to sack the quarterback. It's what they need. And guys early on in downs, Frank Clark, Michael Dana can set the edge. They need somebody that can get after the quarterback, and hopefully Dunlap is that guy.
Give me that split one more time from their most recent chunk.
From 2020 and 21?
Yes.
718 pass rush snaps to 293.
That is significant.
Yes.
That is significant. And he can hold his own against the run also. I think that's probably more a usage and age and getting the most out of the most bang for your buck there. Because I don't think that he will be a liability against the run.
Yeah.
but the Chiefs need
But if
somebody
you're-
who's going to go catch a quarterback.
But if you're going to play him 38% of the snaps, would you rather that 38%
Exactly.
be against the pass or helping out with the run? I'll take my chances with Dunlap in a passing situation.
Mike Dana might be as good of a run stopper, edge setter, but he's not the pass rusher that they're hoping Dunlap is. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's hear from Spagnuolo, who has a new toy in his defensive line room, and that is Carlos Dunlap, but weighing in on a number of other things, Spagnuolo at training camp today.
Great to see everybody, right? It was great to get out here. I mean, the weather cooperated early. We thought we were going to get a little bit shaky, right? But it worked out really good. Real fired up to be here. Vacation, as I get older, goes by quicker, but I do like it when it gets here. I told my wife that I'm all fired up. I'm not happy to leave her, but I was all fired up to come here. Let me do this real quick. I know there's talk out there about us signing a player. I don't know that there's pen to paper right now, so I won't go there. I did have a chance to speak with him last night. It was a good visit, and then I'll let Coach Reed take it from there, okay, guys? And I'm sure we'll have opportunities to talk about that player going forward. So with that, I'll just open it up.
You mentioned being fired up, and you had an opportunity to talk to him. Granted, we don't know if it's confirmed or not, but if you did sign him,
you're going to do that to me, aren't you? You're going to do that. That's really good. That's really good, yeah. Listen, I would say this particular player, how's that? Listen, I'm always happy to add big, long guys, right, that have experience, have played in the league. But I'll be honest with you, I mean, I do know something about the player just from afar, right? But until we get him in here to find out where we can use him best, and that's exactly what I told him last night when we talked. So I'm not sure if it answered the question or not, but that's what I'm going with. Yeah, a little young, right? A little young and a little inexperienced, but I think we've got some good options. I think this is going to be one of those years that it's going to take us 3, 4, 5 games, hopefully as we win, where we figure out where everybody goes and who should be doing this and who should be playing. I just think it's one of those years with all the new faces. That's certainly one of the positions that's a little bit new. Yeah. Yeah, the only step, or one of the only steps left with these guys is what will they do physically when we put those on, the tackling, the block destruction, we call it. I anticipate that George will be really good at that because he's one of those, plays with his hair on fire, and I don't expect that to change. Now, every young guy that comes in, even though they may have dominated at a college level, there is a little bit of a learning curve, right? So we're going to live with some ups and downs with the young guys, and hopefully, George goes like that, right, throughout the season. But I'm fired up to see what he does physically. I'm not going to put expectations on Frank. I mean, I want Frank to be a steady player just like he has been. I want to, in the 4th year in the system, like all these guys that are in here for the 4th year, I would expect that the MEs go way down. That's an expectation on every veteran that's been here for 4 years, so it would be the same for Frank. Yeah, I'm all over him on that, by the way. I pulled him over. I don't know if you guys were here all of yesterday's practice. You guys are here the whole practice, right? Yeah, so I had him in the back there in 7-on-7. I didn't do it today because Dave had him. But what you're bringing up is really important in my opinion. Most of these guys think, and especially if they've been here 4 years, right? They think that they can just roll back out there and it's all going to just come back to them. Now, I don't believe in that. I do believe they need the mental reps. The one thing that you guys don't see this, but when we go in the indoor in the afternoon, that's what that is all about. Now, he still can't be involved in that, Richard, but he is back there getting all the mental. So that's all we can do for right now. Yeah, right now, that's what would happen. Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, I got some young dudes back there. Yeah. I tell you what, to be honest with you, that's an exciting thing for me personally. I like working with these young guys. I'm not so sure I want so many at one time that we're basically relying on, but I think Joshua's done a really good job. The one thing Joshua does is that when we ask him to do something a certain way, technique-wise, he goes right out there and tries to do that, and he's been doing it all the way through. There's a learning curve there, and there's going to be mistakes. I love the way he competes, though.
Speaking of those young guys, in the past you've had a guy that was back on the back end.
Yep.
Put those guys in their places, retirement.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Justin's very similar. I'm not sure right now because he hadn't been in the system that he's where Tyron was. I'm not sure anybody's going to get to that particular spot. But the guy that has stepped up is Juan Thornhill. I'm talking about out here from a communication standpoint and running the show. He's kind of taken that upon himself, which is about what Juan should be doing right now in his 4th year. And as Justin gets more comfortable with the system, I would expect him to do the same thing.
Now, speaking of Juan said that he was going to have an all-pro season. Are you seeing that from him?
Well, I hope he's right. I hope he's right.
Steve, with your experience as a defensive coordinator, how many times do you get a chance to sort of talk to a guy who's established himself in one position, get some experience patient at a new position, and then the following year you kind of review that and go through that? And obviously that relationship shown.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where you were going with that. You mean with Chris being a DN last year at the beginning?
And now shifting back to probably, there's more now.
Yeah. Well,
have you had an experience before like that?
I see what you're asking.
How do you communicate going back to,
In the Rolodex in my mind, I can't really come up with a specific example. I'm sure there's some there, but that was kind of a natural thing for Chris to go back inside, in my opinion. We were fortunate enough to get Melvin. Where it was a little bit more of a challenge was at the beginning when we put him out because it was it's kind of uncharted territory for him. But you guys know we do move Chris around a little bit. I think your question was, did I have anybody else like that? I can't think of anybody right now. Hopefully that won't happen too much this year. Talking about Chris? Nah, I mean he's a defensive tackle. I think we all know what we expect from Chris. Yeah.
What's the transition like now? Getting a green sticker on the new guy,
Yep.
making all those calls for you. Have you landed on that yet?
We're very fortunate to have Nick here, in my opinion. Nick's a natural thinker. He's a natural football player too, but I'm glad that we have Nick because I think he does a really good job. I don't think he's at just like with Tyron, safeties being at Tyron's level after Tyron was in it for 3 years. I'm not sure Nick will be at that level as Hitch after Hitch had it for 3 years, but I am encouraged with what he's doing right now. Oh, is that right? I didn't even know that. Yeah. I think I've. Go ahead. Is there a different question? Yeah. I believe I said this in the spring because I think a particular same question was asked. This is what we're doing right now. We're going to throw most everything at them to find out what this group can do and then go from there. That's what we're going to end up doing. So at some point, you're asking, is it going to scale back? It probably has to. Yeah. But that's typical of any year. Training camp, you get it all in so that when you want to go back in Game 7 and pick something out that you worked in training camp, it's not brand new to them. So these guys do have to fight through some volume right now. That's what they got to do. He's been playing corner for us. Yeah, he's lined up at corner. The horn just blew. Can I get? Does that mean I'm done?
That means nothing in here.
Yeah, I got you.
Sort of like follow the same question. Philosophically, in 2019, you kind of did the same thing because you had the new scheme for the players.
All new guys, yeah.
And so you have new players here, but how beneficial is it to have some veterans who underwent that?
A huge benefit, but there's quite a number of new faces. It'd be different if it was just one, right? Because like even last year, I'm trying to think, most of the group was back, right? Who would have been new? Nick. And Nick would have been new, right? So we really didn't scale it back, and Nick had to get up to speed with everybody. But this whole group, it will be throttled down a little bit. We're going to have to do that. We got to find out what these guys can do and be playing fast on Game 1. But that doesn't mean that we don't challenge them right now. Part of doing all of this is to find out which guys can think fast. If you go out there and you play 2 coverages and 2 fronts, right, and then you get into Game 5 and you need to change some things because of whatever you're playing, and guys can't get, we'll know who can and who can't. I hope I don't have to answer that question again. Are we done with that one? Sam, have you coached? Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, it was really good. No, because I think every coach has to do that, right? Too much, too little. But every player needs to know whatever you put in. That's the NFL, right? Am I good? You're good. All right, thank you.
I like Spagnuolo.
I'm so glad he's back.
I can there's it's a number of people that I can just look forward to hearing talk, and Spagnuolo is one of those as well. And just talking about, that's one of the big questions about this season is the playbook is so deep, and Justin Reed has talked about that. They're like 15% of the way through. It's the most extensive playbook that he's been around, and do you have to scale that back? And as he said, like, they're going to throw most everything at him right now, and then see what they can do, and then go from there. Like, here's what we do. Okay, we know that's not going to work with this group right now, so scale that back. And he said they do that every year. I think it's different degrees, though, every year. When you've got guys that have all returned from the year before, then, okay, let's add some more things. What can they handle? Okay, let's scale that back there. But as he said, part of it is to find out which guys can think fast, which guys can be out there, still play while, being able to think and know what they're supposed to do, because they're getting a grasp of it quickly or quicker than maybe some others would. And then you go from there. But 2019 was that adjustment process and that slow burn into how good that defense was going to be, and I think that's going to be the same thing this year.
I do think it's an interesting insight into how things work with Spags and with his defensive. Excuse me.
You okay?
Good grief. I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm going to find this cough button before the end of the show. It's probably over here somewhere.
It'll happen.
It's a green one?
I think
it is. But I think it's interesting that we ask all the time, hey, why is Ben Neiman still out there? Why is Dan Sorensen still out there? You have younger, more
still
interesting.
out there right now?
Not right now. Not right now. Sorry.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Why would we ask that right now?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin anybody's day. But whenever you say, hey, these veterans are out there instead of Willie Gay,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the logic is somewhere within there, that Spags is waiting to see that these guys can handle a lot that they throw at him, which is kind of the only option at the NFL level, I assume. I think they could probably find a little middle ground. I think they're finding it right now. A lot of young guys in this defense. But it's an interesting spot that they're in.
Yeah, and saying,
an exciting one, too, I think.
Absolutely. And not having Anthony Hitchens, and he said they're very fortunate to have Nick Bolton. He's a natural thinker and a natural football player. That's Mizzou made. That's what it sounds like to me. It's just, it's natural. All right, so there's Spagnuolo. Let's hear from Chris Jones, who was asked about the expected addition, or is it, by the way, tip of the cap, Herbie, and asking the question that he did when Spags was like, I don't know if it's done or not, hey, and Herbie was like, well, let's assume a player like that were to be signed. Like, bringing in a player like him, what would that do for your defense? Like,
Steve, I don't know if you ever watched any Seattle Seahawks film last year, maybe studying up on their defense.
Not so much the guy that wore number 6 or 7 or 9.
Yeah, somewhere between.
But just right in between 7 and 9.
And if that guy was suddenly wearing red, gold, and white.
Yeah, right.
If he joined the group with Frank Clark and George Karlaftis and Mike Dana and Josh Kano.
What would that be like?
What would that, like, hey, Steve, close your eyes and imagine for me.
You could just picture this. All right, here's Chris Jones being asked about Carlos Dunlap.
Chris, there's a report of Carlos Dunlap. I know we visited last night, but if this report is true, what do you know of the player, and what do you think he'll bring to this team?
I mean, Carlos Dunlap, his resume speaks for itself. I think he had 7 or 8 sacks last year for Seattle. He's a high-character guy. I trained with him this offseason in Miami. And if we're able to add him, and if the report is true, we'll accept Carlos with open arms. I think he's a veteran guy that's had a lot of experience in this league. And to have a veteran guy like that in this position group, I think it would be remarkable. No, we don't really talk about, I always told him I'd love to play with you, you know what I mean? Guys like Carlos Dunlap, Justin Houston, guys who set the standard when I was in the league. I watched some of their film when I first came in the league, so it's always a pleasure to kind of be around that type of guy, high-character guy,
What do you feel like maybe he brings, Chris, that maybe you guys didn't have?
I think experience, one of the things. We got a young group this year, fairly young to me. I'm like one of the older guys in the group. I think he brings a lot of experience. He can bring a lot of wisdom to the group. He also can influence the group, you know what I mean, with his leadership ability. So we'd love to have him.
Were you surprised that Melvin Ingram signed down in Miami instead of coming back?
I was surprised, man. Melvin, one of those guys. I felt like I didn't have enough time, but he was remarkable for us, man. And just his presence meant a lot to us. And unfortunately, we got him later on in the year. You know what I mean? Me and Melvin was able to build a bond. We still kind of talk today. I congratulated him on his signing in Miami, and we look forward to seeing him.
What about you? What are your goals for this season?
My goal is to make sure that this D-line is one of the best D-line in the league. You know, whether it's sacks, whether it's playing the run, and whether it's being gritty on the field, you know. And I feel like this team the defense drives off the D-line. So the D-line, you know, my point of emphasis, we take this day by day. It's a journey. But as long as we're making strides, 1% better than yesterday, then we're going in the right direction.
What are your early impressions of George and working with him and how he's coming along early?
He's a high-energy guy. He's very teachable. He's here to learn. I think he's on the path he's on. I think he'll be a good asset for us on the D-line. But, you know, he's still learning. We all are.
How do you go across the defensive line? You mentioned your grittiness and everything. How do you go across trying to teach that and instill that into the young guys? Do you see it so far with him so far?
Yeah, it's something you got to instill since day one. You know what I mean? It's something that is going to be the foundation of this defense. You know, from you know, the D-line for me is the foundation of the defense, and then carry on to the back end. And if the D-line play like a minutes, you know, I feel like we set the tone for this defense. You know, so I feel like that's a huge aspect for us, me and Frank Clark right now, to make sure we set the tone day to day for this defense. Make sure we set the bar high, and what we expect from the younger guys.
Mr. Reed said it was an attitude defense. You agree with that?
Yeah, we're gritty, man. We're definitely gritty here.
What's your take on the Guardians?
You know, I have no opinion on it. I think it's what required. And I think, you know, as soon as I'm able to take it off, I will.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to adjust or add to your sort of workout regimen, Chris, before coming back here based on your experience last year and your experience?
No, just make sure I'm in the best shape of my life, to make sure that I'm able to play however many plays this team want me to play.
Chris Spags mentioned Thornhill and how he's kind of stepping out as the voice of the room. What have you seen from him so far, given Tyron is no longer here, maybe just more of Thornhill's secondary?
I can reiterate what Spags says. I see a maturity levels increasing on Juan Thornhill. He's forced to do more, so when you expect more from a person, they actually give more. So we send a lot of leadership abilities from Juan. I always told Juan he was the guy. I always encouraged Juan. So just to see him blossom is, you know, for me, it's excitement. So I think Juan's going to be really, really good for us. Him and Justin, I think our back end is going to be really, really good.
Chris, you're a guy that gets the fans fired up. What's the make you be back out here at the same time?
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Actually, I started missing football, man. I wanted to be around my teammates. I wanted to be around the culture, and especially the fan base, one of the best fan bases in NFL, you know, and our fans support us through thick and thin, you know. And we've been fortunate enough to give back to them by 4 AFCs, and, you know, that's a journey. That's a journey, you know. It starts here. You see how full it is out there on a day-to-day basis, and these are just the first 2 days. So I appreciate the support from our fan base. I love you, KC, when they watch this, and it's very encouraging to us to see how many people come out here and support us.
You mentioned being around your teammates. We hear about the offensive guys being together in the offseason, offensive line, receivers. How much does the defensive line get together?
I think it's a little different. Defensive line, we kind of get together, but for the defensive line to get with the DBs, we do 2 different types of workouts. So for them to be pulling sleds, we'll be looking at them a type of way. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So different type of workout. But I think it's very imperative for you to build that chemistry along the defense, whether it's just hanging out, whether it's going to lunch, whether it's just a phone call or a text message, just to see how they're doing. So I think that's very huge for the success of the team.
Chris, is there any initial takeaways? I know it's early in the camp, but just your new defensive line coach, from what you guys have talked about early in the offseason and what you've sort of seen these first couple days?
I think me and Joe see eye to eye. I love Joe, actually. I think our standard is the same. The bar for the D-line is high, as it should be. I think his expectation level for us as individuals and also us as a group is where it needs to be. And, you know, it's a journey, man. It's a day-to-day process. You know, don't get too high, don't get too low. Just try to stay even flow, because some days you're gonna have really, really good days, and some days the offense might kick our ass. But it's a learning curve for us as the D line.
Hey, Chris, what's Nick Bolton been like in the huddle? Calling the plays, especially compared to last year's rookie.
He's been the same as he always been. He's been very vocal. He's been a special point on his defense, man. Nick, since the first time he stepped on the field, you see how in awe we was as not only fans but as teammates. You know what I mean? When you see a guy doing so well, it only can help this defense. So, we're glad to have Nick back there. Him and Willie Gay. Got to keep those guys healthy. It's nothing deeper, man. We just got to get the quarterback down.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
Short to the point. One of the things we talked to Askin Swanson, is there something you can glean from the fact that the Chiefs' pressure percentage has gone up every year in ranking, yet their sack numbers have continued to go the opposite direction? How are you 29th in sacks but 5th in pressure percentage? And Sam McDowell asking, anything deeper there? And Chris Jones, nope, just got to bring the guy down. Nothing deeper. Just get the guy on the ground. Agreed. They had opportunities to do that against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game, and one of the things that Chris Jones talked about was trying to erase that. He said it was his fault that they ended up losing that game, so he took a lot of that responsibility. So we'll see what happens with the defensive line this year. Carlos Dunlap in the fold, being signed, and what his impact is going to be. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. We got Sports or Leisure coming up at 1 o'clock. Johnny's Tavern presenting Sports or Leisure. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You're lesser than me because you're not in the media.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Ah!
Oh. No clue what that reference is there, Josh?
No, I just assume you say that every day you walk in.
No. That was me making fun of a guy who, it was at a NCAA basketball press conference, a tournament press conference, and the assembled media was there, and they were asking questions to a coach, and then there was a kid there from, like, Sports Illustrated for Kids.
Yeah.
That asked a couple of questions, and I don't remember the media member, but he went to Twitter and he started complaining about it. Like, these, they got these kids in here, so that's when I was like, oh, I'm in the media! Nobody knows what it's like to try to report this story on a deadline! Then you got this kid in here asking these stupid questions. No, nobody could do what I could do. Have these kids running around. I'm in the media.
Our job is very serious.
This is absurd.
What's next? Sports or leisure. Oh, yeah,
You're into sports, but nothing wrong with a little leisure time. Why not both?
You're going to have a heart attack by the time you're 40 if you don't learn to relax.
It's time for sports or leisure on The Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, sports or leisure, 913-381-0810 is the phone number, 913-381-0810. Phone number, play some sports or leisure. It's presented by Johnny's Tavern, $25 to Johnny's Tavern. If you get a sports question and a leisure question right, you win. Get either of them wrong, you lose. Sorry about that. But that question will stay out there, remain open until someone actually answers said question. And, maybe you Google it, maybe you know it, don't really care. Just trying to give away as much as we can to Johnny's Tavern. So 913-381-0810. Couple of news nuggets before we get into start playing the game. Kyler Murray in his press conference, impromptu press conference he had today, said that it's disrespectful that those in the media would be reacting the way that they are and acting like he does not have a work ethic that can get him to that level that he's played at, and just assume he doesn't do those things, which is sort of the opposite of how he ended the show or ended the last hour about making fun of like a media member. I'm in the media, you can't do what I do. And then the flip side is the athlete blaming the media for said reaction from everybody because your team included the clause in which you agreed to that has not been done in any other contract in the NFL, which says you are required to do extra studying because they don't trust you to do that on your own. That ain't the media, and it ain't the fans, and in fact the reaction is the expected level of reaction for that to be included in a player in general's contract, but certainly a quarterback who's now being viewed as a franchise quarterback for the Cardinals and the third highest paid annual average value in the NFL.
And I think that everything he said, at least if you take it at face value, which we all have to take your salt, whatever. But if you take it at face value, everything he said here makes sense. Like I think that really shines through as being potentially there being some truth in that.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't study this whole time and it's a legit concern by the Cardinals, this conversation is very short. It made it in the contract and it makes sense. If there is any beef, though, as you said, Kyler Murray shouldn't be telling us to stop making fun of him. He should be talking to the Cardinals and his agent, asking how the bleep and why the bleep is that in there. I study 12 hours a day, and if that's the case, that's their issue.
Yep, absolutely. Also, Royals trading Benintendi last night, getting 3 players back. Beck Way, 22-year-old right-handed pitcher who was pitching at High A for the Yankees system, 2020 fourth-round draft pick. T.J. Sikkema, the 23rd ranked prospect in the Yankees organization. He is 24 years old, a left-handed pitcher, also pitching at High A, 2019, number 38 overall draft pick. Missed 2020 because of everybody missing 2020 in the minor leagues, and missed 2021 because of arm and shoulder injuries, but returned to the field this year and is pitching pretty darn well in terms of strikeouts and innings pitched. He's got, 60 and 30 innings? I'll have to look up the exact numbers, but it's pretty awesome to see what he's done in a limited amount after missing the last 2 years. And then Chandler Champlain, the number 29 prospect for the Yankees, 23-year-old right-handed pitcher. He was pitching in low A ball and a 9th rounder from the 2021 Major League Baseball draft. And a couple of reactions from that being that trading for pitching certainly makes sense. The Royals need it. Getting 3 different could-be lottery tickets, okay, makes sense, rather than one guy that can, play the pass-fail on the trade card. The problem with that is you'd rather have guys that are closer to developed because the Royals cannot develop pitching, and these are 3 guys that also have to be developed. So I'm like, all right, let's try it again. What's that? Oh, that's your head. That's a wall. And you just keep doing it over and over. I don't think that wall is going to break before your head does. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We haven't seen a lineup yet for tonight.
Not that I've seen. I was kind of scrolling through, like, hold on, doesn't this game?
Is Benintendi in the Yankees lineup?
I would love to know that as well. I don't think I've caught one yet. I will keep an eye out though. If we get a lineup, I'm curious to see. Also, I don't know if you mentioned that Michael Garcia was called up from AA.
I did not. Thank you.
So he is the latest addition. Don't know how long his stint will be or.
So he's the replacement for now for Benintendi, a middle infielder, and I just. It's curious because I don't know how that fits then if it's a middle infielder, so then Dozier plays left field and then Witt can play right and then Garcia plays second. But if that's the case, why not bring up Michael Massey unless you don't really feel Michael Massey is ready? And if you don't feel like he was ready, then why'd you play him against the Blue Jays instead of Garcia, who was up as well? We'll find out. We'll find out what Garcia's doing with the Royals right now up in place of Benintendi, who is a Yankee. We'll give you an update on that. And Carlos Dunlap is now a Chief. He has been signed 1 year, up to $8 million. And another nugget in the NFL, Tampa Bay Buccaneers center Ryan Jensen was carted off this morning from Buccaneers practice. They said it's going to take a couple days for them to see the extent of the injury. But from everybody that was there, Jensen's a pretty tough guy, and how demonstrative he was on the ground with throwing his helmet, teammates coming over and kind of just, looking like a guy that's carted off the field when they're tapping the shoulder and everything, and then you get back to playing. And that's a guy who was the #1 interior offensive line free agent this year from the Bucs. They re-signed him 3 years, $40 million, and viewed as one of the top centers in the league. And James Palmer, we had him on earlier, said one of the reasons why Tom Brady wanted to return was that connection he had with Ryan Jensen. So now you've got Kappa, who's a Bengal, and Jensen, who more than likely is going to be on the IR. That's 2 pieces of that incredibly strong interior for the Bucs offensive line, when that's the most important part of protecting Tom Brady, because he hates pressure right up the middle.
Yep.
So we'll see. It's not the time to see breaking news with your team. That is definitely the case. All right, let's go through the categories here for Sports or Leisure, 913-381-0810. Categories today, we have literally 1 question left in the NFL quarterbacks traded. Literally 1 question left. Right. And then we have a new category of Royals trades. So different questions around the Royals trades throughout their history, recent, distant past. We have a few questions from Home Run Derby left over. And then we have General Major League Baseball and General NBA. So what about on the leisure side, Josh?
So it's important to note, I think, that whenever you call in and ask for your questions, knowing yourself and getting the right category is just as important as getting the right question within that. And today, that's never been more true.
Okay.
We still have the ones that originated with me. That's what I call music. Some questions about the current state of music and some current things going on. Real gamers only, about video games at the moment. And then I also have what I am calling Corey's Sack of questions, which is a combination of some questions that Corey left behind. And if you listen to this show, you're going to know what Corey questions are. It ranges from vacations to Craigslist to Friday Night Lights, but that's all in Corey's Sack. And then we also have The Godfather, Full House, the MCU, and some famous foursomes, all from intern Dylan. Those are all intern questions. So, I didn't write any new questions for today.
Here's the thing. The toughest part of leisure will actually be picking a category that you want to question
and
from.
I cut it down by like 5 by inventing Corey's Sack of questions.
And people are, well, you didn't invent Corey's Sack.
Perfected it, some would say.
True. I would say his parents probably did that. So my categories are like just general, like, Major League Baseball and NBA, and they're like, maybe you should actually have some more like specific categories. Okay, I'll throw a couple in there. And Josh is like, oh, what's that? Can I get 10?
I I really like to enter this segment with like 3 or 4 categories,
Okay.
and today you've got like 7.
Okay.
So I'll restate them as necessary, but you got a lot to choose from today. So nobody to blame but yourself if you can't get it, you know?
You don't even need to go into a descriptions. Just reset them again.
Right now,
just reset them.
Music, video games, Corey's Sack, The Godfather, Full House, the MCU, Famous Foursomes.
All right. There we go. I'm ready to go. Josh, you ready to go?
I feel overwhelmed.
Beards, you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good.
Dylan, you good to go? Lebo, you good?
Beards really feeling it.
Thumbs up from Beards. All right. Or from Lebo, I should say. Let's go to the phone lines, and we start off for Johnny's Tavern, $25. We go to Avery, who is first up on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Sports or Leisure Thursday. Avery, welcome in. What side would you like to start with, sir?
Let's slide into a foursome.
All right, Famous Foursomes. So this foursome is all for you. Name 4 actors.
That can't be just for him.
And you and 4 of your closest friends from
3.
the original Top Gun.
Val Kilmer, Anthony Edwards, Meg Ryan, and Tom Cruise.
I was going to say, like...
That would have been incredible.
Had you done...
I almost said Michael Ironside.
I actually would have preferred you go through and name actors not named Tom Cruise for a Tom Cruise movie.
Challenge mode.
Yeah.
That's great. We should do Famous Foursomes and then take away the star actor of whatever said movie is or whatever.
You would have had it.
You'd have been fine. All right, on to the leisure or sports side, I should say. Avery, what category are you thinking?
And general NBA.
General NBA for you. Okay, let's go general NBA. All right, so there are now 5 players to average at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in their NBA Finals career in NBA history now that Steph Curry is over that threshold. Minimum 10 games played. Name 2 of the other 4 players to do that. That in their entire playoff career, they have averaged, in their career, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He is now the 5th player to do that. Name 2 of the other 4.
That feels like a LeBron and Jordan kind of thing.
Well, then go ahead and go with your feeling.
Yeah, probably I'll go LeBron and Michael Jordan.
There you go. That's 2 of them. Want to throw a dart as to who the other 2 are? Just for S's and G's.
I'll throw one. Beards.
Tim Duncan?
Well, Beards knows the answer. Tim Duncan is not one of them. You want to throw a...
Shaq?
Shaq also not one of them.
Really?
Yep, it's the assists, yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Jerry West, I should just say Lakers.
Jerry West?
Couple Lakers. West and Kobe.
I just got Shaq.
West,
nice.
Yep, West, MJ, Kobe, LeBron, and Steph. So there you go. Avery, we'll put you on hold. Get your information. Congratulations, sir.
1 up, 1 down.
That's
Thanks,
right.
gentlemen.
It's a leadoff home run right there.
Came in and just crushed it. It was LeBron, Jordan, Val Kilmer. You know what? Yeah,
Don't
Tom
even care.
Cruise, I guess.
Yeah, is he in there? I believe he's in a scene or 2. So cool.
Great work.
Let's go to Ty next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Playing a little sports or leisure. Ty, what side would you like to start with, sir?
How about foursome?
Okay, here we're going with Jurassic Park.
Ooh.
Movies and lists, courtesy of Dylan the intern. Thank you, Dylan.
Now, as Ty's thinking, I just want to clarify something. Do you also have the same rule that if they get 3 of the 4, one of their actors/actresses can be described as, I know the person, they're in this movie and that movie, but I don't know the name?
Yeah,
Because that was the Corey rule.
I think if you can name other movies they've been in, I think.
But you only get 1 of those.
Yeah. I like that.
He said you can name 3, and you got sort of a 1 sort of out that you can name the different movies that person's in. You may not know the name. Okay, so we'll stick with that rule.
How about Laura Dern?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yep.
Sam O'Neill. And what's that? I think it's Martin Ferraro.
I didn't hear the last one because Beards nailed you. What was your last guess again?
Martin Ferraro.
I don't know who that is. I don't know. What's the ruling on that? I'm willing to. I'm willing to bring.
No, he was in it. Martin, I
okay,
just pulled him up. Yeah,
so
he was in there.
The only thing you did wrong there was you added a letter on somebody's last name that didn't need to be there.
Yep.
Who's Sam Neill?
There it is.
Yeah,
That's
nice
a
job.
winner.
Nice job. We would have accepted Velociraptor or T-Rex as well.
Yeah.
We would have accepted either one of those.
Yes, any of those would have been fine. I might have given you Jurassic World's character.
Could also have accepted Newman.
Newman would have also gotten it
Newman
done.
would have been
Yep.
acceptable as well.
Good work.
All right, on to the sports side, Ty. We've got one question from NFL quarterbacks. We got Royals trades, home run derby, Major League Baseball, NBA.
How about baseball?
All right, general baseball?
Yeah.
All right, so Mike Stanton is now the 5th player, or I should say Giancarlo Stanton. Formerly Mike Stanton.
It's only been 10 years.
Raul Mondesi Jr., now playing with Giancarlo Stanton, is the 5th player to win the All-Star Game MVP, the Home Run Derby, and League MVP. Name any other of the 4 players that have an All-Star Game MVP, a Home Run Derby, and a League MVP.
I'm going to see here. Home Run Derby.
I think there's one obvious.
How about Griffin? Ken Griffey?
That's right, Ken Griffey. There you go. Ken Griffey Jr., there's one of them. That would have been the most logical guess, the most likely one that people would get. The other 3 are kind of difficult to get. Miguel Tejada, Dave Parker, and Cal Ripken Jr. So without Griffey, I don't know that I would have asked the question.
Yeah.
But Griffey, kind of a big name in there as well. And that is 2 for 2.
That's 2 for 2.
It's 2 for 2. We are 2 for 2 in Johnny's Tavern gift cards. Ty, we'll put you on hold, get your information. Congratulations, sir.
Right on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Workman-like performances from Ty and Avery.
That's exactly right. We haven't really given hints.
No, we really haven't.
So, I mean, we allowed the letter to be erased from the foursome.
He got the name.
That's well within the margins.
Plus, he got
of
the
error.
other 3, so that would be like, as the 4th one.
If he would have just gone, oh, it's Sam, I would have been like,
Sam.
L. Jackson, you got it.
Yep. Sam Ewell? That's right. Let's see. Christopher's up next on Sports Radio 810. Christopher, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Let's do leisure. And you're not, even though Gamers is very tempting, you're not going to be able to get me to do it, Needles. Let's do MCU.
You just call me Needles?
Yeah, because you're going to call me chicken because I've already,
Okay, MCU, what's Captain America's shield made out of?
Oh, come on. Vibranium.
No hesitation.
Yeah,
Ice in your veins.
I feel like Christopher was annoyed at that question.
I thought that was the one I wanted to put out there. Dylan put out some more higher difficulty ones. If you want to tell me what gives Ant-Man the ability to shrink down in size, I'll give you a bonus half point.
Tim particles.
Dylan, did you send him the answers? What happened? All right, you get a point and a half on leisure.
Dylan's dad?
Yeah, I wasn't going to ask anybody the PIM particles when
Dylan wants
machine.
to. Dylan wants to.
I can't hear him, but if he really wants to challenge you one, ask him.
Oh. Well, was he going to get 3? We're just using all of our MCU questions on Christopher. He just said yes, by the way.
Let's see how confident he is. Does he know what SHIELD stands for?
Oh, yeah, okay. What does SHIELD stand for?
That, then he knows what he's talking about.
Could you get 3 of what those letters stand for?
Strength?
No.
What do you say? No. Hold on.
You're going to get there.
No, it's not strength. They're not strong at all.
It's Strategic Homeland Enforcement and Logistics Division.
You just skipped the I. You gave me shelled.
That's fine.
That's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten this in an hour.
Yeah. You know what? He's saying? There's no I in S.H.I.E.L.D. There's no I in S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a team. There's no I in Avengers. It's a team. All right.
You skipped over intervention, but good grief.
It's a team. That's right.
There you go.
You absolutely just burnt that category. Hopefully you've earned an easy sports question is what I'm rooting for here. That's up to Jason.
We'll see. Christopher, sports side, what category are you thinking?
Let's do NBA.
NBA for you. Okay. Typically, those are the easier questions. There are themes as to the answers. Let's. You know what? I'm not going to ask you a LeBron answer.
Whoa.
Because a number of these, like LeBron's part of the answers, but it's like name 2 or name 1. So I'm not going to do that. LeBron is not an answer to this. The trio of Steph, Clay, and Draymond won their 20th finals game together. What other trio with at least 2 All-NBA selections apiece? So all 3 of them have at least 2 different All-NBA selections.
Good grief.
Yeah.
And
LeBron's not part of it.
LeBron's not, no, because he doesn't stay with teams that long. So he switches around. But Steph, Clay, and Draymond, they passed this trio in the last 50 seasons.
Okay. Last 50 seasons, so all of it, huh?
Last 50 seasons,
Let's
this
do,
trio.
Okay, I'm a huge Lakers fan. Don't like North Carolina. Let's do.
But it's not the
Magic
Lakers.
Johnson.
But it's not the Lakers. So if you're a huge Lakers fan,
All right.
That's the hint you earned from getting 3
That's exactly right.
MCU questions right.
Yeah, that's the intervention
All
I
right.
gave you.
How about? Okay, then how about Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish?
Also not correct.
Oh!
Also not correct. Can you believe that?
Oh.
That is
Give
incorrect.
me the Pym particles, man.
Christopher, you're the man when it comes to MCU, and next time when we have a leisure game,
I'll save some MCU questions.
we will
for
give you a call. You're the man, Christopher.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. There you go. There's our MCU correspondent. And when we should get Christopher's information. Therefore, if we ever get in an argument about MCU and Drake isn't around, we'll call Christopher. Let's go to, I believe it is Andrew up next on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Andrew, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with, sir?
I don't know how I'm going to follow that MCU, but I'll try it.
You're going to try the MCU? Okay.
Ooh, okay.
You only have to get one right, Andrew.
Yeah, and I only actually have 2 of these questions left because Christopher just ate the category. Where is Wanda's hex located in WandaVision?
Oh, it's
Her what?
Her hex. And there's a hint here if you're
that an innuendo?
Shooting a little too wide on your scope, but
okay.
Let's see if you can no scope it first.
like it's east something. It's I can't remember if it's like Eastville or if it's Eastern. And the name of a town.
I don't think
Dylan can hear. I want to get no. I'm just trying to decide if you're on the right track, but you're facing the wrong direction.
West, okay. Not like Westville. That's too simple. It's west.
Kanye.
It's west. Not West Philadelphia, but
born and raised.
Nope.
On the playgrounds where Wanda spent most of her days.
Oh gosh.
What was the last one you said that it's not?
What?
There was one that you said it's not whatever, and you were right. It's not that one, but boy, it was very, very close.
Said it's not Philadelphia.
Not Westville.
Yo, it's not, but it's almost Westville.
Almost Westville.
No more hands. I can't get any more hands. I'm moving up the microphone.
West Centerville.
Oh
no. West. Gosh. I had to go with the WandaVision, didn't you?
I'm sorry.
Well, Christopher took all the other questions, apparently.
I knew all the other ones.
See? Nice job, Josh.
Nice job, Dylan.
Nice job, Christopher. Way to go, Beards.
Thank you.
Andrew, you want to throw one more dart? One more dart? One more thart?
I could give. Here's what I could do.
West.
I would even offer my other MCU question because I think it's harder. But if he thinks he can get, okay, you're gonna stick. Okay,
I'll try it.
Okay, fine. You already said it. It's a legally binding verbal agreement you made on the air, so you've got to do it now.
In Avengers Endgame, what video game was Korg playing when Rocket and Hulk came to New Asgard looking for Thor?
Oh, they're playing. Hold up. I want to get ahead of myself here.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it was Fortnite.
An incredible comeback.
I
did not know that.
Here's a bonus question. They were playing online against who?
Nuke Master.
Kyler Murray. Wrong. Kyler Murray is who they were playing online against. You were close. On to the sports side. We've got Home Run Derby. We got regular Major League Baseball. We got Royals trades, NBA, and literally one NFL quarterback question.
I'll try that question that guy had earlier.
NBA?
Yeah. I feel like there's an obvious answer, and I'm going to go with Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman.
Also incorrect.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. According to this piece of paper,
They were only in 3 finals, so that's only 12 wins. So
that's a good point.
Wow. How many wins did it need to be?
20. At least 20.
Crazy.
Because
Wow, I don't know the answer to
it's won their 20 finals game together. Yeah, had at least 20. They passed, so they got number 20. So this trio had 19 wins together.
Okay. Wow.
Says trio
Good math,
won their 20th finals game together on Monday.
I think I have a flaw in this question. That do all 3 of these guys have to be together for all of these wins?
Yes.
And you said all NBA, but that could be first, second, or third team. Draymond hasn't been first team.
Two different All NBA selections.
But Draymond hasn't been first team All NBA twice. So I'm guessing that's you're including second, third team.
Yep,
Cool.
just
Okay.
an NBA All NBA.
I still don't know the
selection.
answer, but
yeah,
just checking.
Andrew, thanks for playing, man. Appreciate it, sir.
Hey, intern Dylan, just next week. I don't want any questions from you that aren't MCU based, and we're just gonna refresh the MCU section because apparently that's a real crowd pleaser.
Yeah, only for Christopher. So when Christopher calls in, we'll just all of your questions will go to him.
Just rat-a-tat-tat. I was impressed, man. The Pim particles thing. I almost didn't even pull it over from Dylan's list to my list because
Really?
I had no idea.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let's do one more before we get to a break. George, sorry, Beards, I already pressed the button. Once you press the button, you can't go back. Okay, so once you start, you can't stop. It stings. George, you are up next in sports or leisure. What side would you like to start with? The sports side or the leisure side?
Let's go Royals trades.
All
Give
right.
me an old one. Give me an old one.
Thank you for actually asking for Royals trades. I mean,
good.
geez. You know what? If you're wanting an old one, this it's not like 1970s or anything. But if you want an old one, this will be maybe an easier one. This player was traded by the Royals in one of the more controversial trades in franchise history. The package of players brought back Kevin McReynolds, Greg Jeffries, and Keith Miller, who combined to do nothing.
That would be Sabes.
That's right. Brett Saberhagen in 1991. Very controversial. The entire Royals fan base, I think, revolted against Herc when he traded Sabes, and especially when you got back that package of fish. On to the leisure side.
I'm going to reset
Josh.
the categories real quick.
Please do.
Music, games, Corey's sack of questions, The Godfather, Full House, one more MCU question, the one that's already out there, and famous foursomes.
Let's go foursomes.
Okay, why don't you give me 4 from Gladiator?
Oh, boy.
I also went for the oldest movie remaining on my list. It felt like trying to, follow the spirit of the Royals question.
Let's go Russell Crowe, Connie Nielsen. What's that guy's Phoenix?
That's good enough for me.
Okay, now I got to think of a fourth.
I would not have gotten a fourth.
I got him. Digimon Hinzu or something like that.
I mean,
Nailed it.
That's correct. Yeah.
Absolutely nailed it.
I don't even know if that's right. Just because you came up with a name like that, I would say that he's in there.
We all know who he's talking about.
He is. That's great. Good
There you
work.
go. George, well done. We'll put you on hold, get your information. Also, by the way, those actors you named could have come back and performed better than the trade they got for Saberhagen. So they would have actually been better. George will put you on hold. Thank you, sir. 913-381-1010 is the phone number. Quick timeout. Come back. Continue rolling sports or leisure. More of it next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. You're in the zone with Jason Anderson
To be honest, I didn't even know who Jason Anderson was.
on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, Johnny's Tavern, $25 to Johnny's Tavern. We are giving away in a little sports or leisure. We've already had, a couple of winners so far. First two right out of the gates. Winner. Then a few that were losers. And then we got a winner there at the end. So I think George, right? So George is our third winner. So we've got a few.
None of you are losers to me.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't mean to say that. That was like the jerk the other night on the Bachelorette. That was, what just a jerky thing to say. Am I right, Josh?
This is a weird spot where I feel like our roles should be reversed in terms of this sort of cultural touchstone. I've never watched The Bachelor, Bachelorette.
Oh, I do.
Even though it's a good Twitter watch, it seems like. And
every season with the wife.
Every season.
Yep. And this was different because they had two different bachelorettes, and so they were kind of just dating both of them, trying to figure out then who to sort of start to date.
Yeah.
And one of the guys was then discussing with one of the girls he was not wanting to date and pursue, which is great. You want to be honest, say, look, I'm really here for Rachel.
Cut this pool in half.
So he goes and talks to Gabby, and he says, well, my morals and everything sort of align with her, and, you're a little rough around the edges, and what a jerk thing to say.
What does that mean?
Just say, I think I have something more in common with Rachel. I feel like there's something there more, and I don't know that we can get there.
You just need a few more minutes in the microwave. Just marinate a little longer.
What a jerk!
All right, rough around the edges.
Let's go to Brad. Sports or leisure, Brad? What side do you want to start with, sir?
Let's go with Corey's scrotum.
I don't think that's what I called it, but it's a common mistake.
That is not a category at all.
It actually, believe it or not, it is. It's a secret category that if you ask for, I actually have a question.
It's like off the menu?
It is. Well, yeah, way off the menu, Jason. As far off the menu as anything could be.
Wow.
In Vacation, what was wrong with the sandwiches they ate from the picnic basket?
I believe the dog had urinated on
That's right. Dog peed on him.
Straight out of Corey's sack. There you go.
Well,
yeah.
That also makes all right.
It did not disappoint.
Yeah. All
You're
right.
the first person to ever say that.
Won't be the last.
That got me, Josh. Well done.
Yes.
Well done. All right, on to the sports side, sir. We got one question for the NFL quarterbacks being traded. We got Royals trades, Home Run Derby, Major League Baseball, and NBA.
So that NBA question with the three teammates.
Yep.
Could I ask when the All NBA teams began? Was it has it always been a thing, or did it begin in the 70s, 80s? Or is that a?
Well, I would say you probably don't need to scroll through the All NBA selections before 95.
Oh, okay.
Now I'm even more confused.
Yeah, because I was thinking.
Come
Bill Russell and stuff.
Josh.
So let's go a different NBA question.
All right, a different NBA question.
By the way, just very quickly for point of reference, the first All-NBA team was for the 1947 season.
Okay. So you don't have to look back that far. Maybe fast forward about 50 seasons. Even more than that, really, if you're talking about All-NBA selections for these particular players. So, all right, let's go with a different one. Let's see. Giannis has now 7 career playoff games with at least 30 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. That's the 4th most all time. Name 2 of the other 3 with more than Giannis. 30 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. 4th most is 7. One's an obvious answer, and then the other 2 are Beard, you look like you want to say something. No? Okay.
Yes, but I don't want to give things away.
Okay, well,
15,
just 30, 15, and 5.
Rebounds is what.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right. It's tough to do. It's tough to score, grab those rebounds, and also set your teammates up as well. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And apparently...
Magic Johnson?
Shockingly, not Magic. Not Magic Johnson.
Unlike Corey Sack.
You know what, Brad? You were waiting for 20 minutes on hold, so I'm going to give you another shot. You were waiting a while.
All right.
No Magic.
No Magic. I just I just don't remember. How about Shaquille O'Neal?
Man, you were close, but it is not Shaq. It is not Shaq. Brad, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Again, 913-381-0810. So Shaq is sort of the two of the three position / wrong name. Let's go to Shane. But there's one obvious question out there when you're talking about all-time greats and just random things that always seem to like accumulate numbers.
It's weird. I don't see Michael Jordan's name on this list.
Yeah, I know, because it's rebounds and assists a part of it. Let's go to Shane next up, 913-381-0810. Shane, sports or leisure, sir?
You guys got to start with leisure, please.
Josh, that's you.
Your options here: music, games, Corey's sack of questions, The Godfather, Full House, that one MCU question, famous foursomes.
Is the music all current, Josh?
I think so. Yeah.
What do you mean you think so? It's your
I
category.
had to scroll back down. I wrote them.
Your category.
They're all within the last couple months. Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Let's go foursomes then.
God, I love that. I love when when people ask a specific question about a category, and then change the category.
Do you want a movie from 2002 or 2019?
Literally, those are your choices. There's two left. 2002.
Give me 4 from Van Wilder.
Okay. Ryan Reynolds. Tara Reid. Oh my gosh. Now I gotta really think. Let's see. God, it's been so long since I've seen that movie. I'm gonna guess. I'm thinking of the guy from Harold and Kumar. Is it Cal?
Well, if you get another one right, you can just go with that one being your fourth. That's the guy from that.
And if you get that guy's name, then that can be your 3. I mean,
that's right. Yeah.
Cal Penn.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so now your last one.
One more.
And now you can just say somebody that's in other movies if you recognize them without an actual name.
I do remember this guy because I can't think of his name, but he played Booger on Revenge of the Nerds. He was like a small part in that. So it was funny. God, what's his name though? I just always remember that guy. I can't think of his name though.
Oh yeah, I know this guy. I just googled Booger Revenge of the Nerds. Oh yeah, I recognize him.
I mean, I'm good with it. That would be the fourth one.
If you could, you totally got to do a sports question, right?
Yeah.
Then I will. Let me see if I can walk you up to. Is he? I'm trying to see if he's actually in this movie.
What, in Van Wilder?
Yes, he certainly is.
Yeah.
His
yeah.
His arms aren't weak. I'll tell you that. His arms are not weak at all.
And Seabolt would agree.
I don't know a Seabolt.
All right, so sports.
All right, very good.
Curtis Armstrong.
Curtis
Seabolt. Armstrong is your third one. Yeah,
Curtis
I know. I
Seabolt
was pretending not to get it for the bit.
Sorry. Okay, my bad.
That's all right.
On to the sports side, Shane. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I want that NBA question. I think I.
I'm not even going to ask it again. What's the answer?
Okay. Yeah. So thinking about the pretty good couple teams. I'm thinking it's like Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker.
You're right.
Wow.
That is correct. Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and now surpassing them, Steph, Clay, and Draymond. The triumph. Very well done, sir. Very well done. We'll put you on hold and get your information, Shane. $25, Johnny's Tavern, heading your way. Thank you for playing.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. 913-381-0810.
Manu, 2-time All-NBA.
That's
I
right.
would have gotten that one wrong.
Yep.
Also, I think Tony Parker was All-NBA.
Well, Tony Parker has to be All-NBA because all three of them had to be at least
all
two.
three of them did? Okay.
That's what they
4 for Tony Parker.
Yeah, all three of those players had to have at least 2 years of All-NBA selections.
Tim Duncan was really good.
People don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Now, Dylan,
Feel
what do you
free to
think
turn off
about?
your microphone whenever I would
What do you
say.
think about? What do you think about Tim
Okay,
Duncan,
all right,
Dylan?
that's good.
Dylan, what do you think about Tim Duncan?
What's Shane's personal information?
Let's go to Simon next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Simon, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with, sir?
Hey guys, I'll go with the leisure.
Okay, we got music, video games, Corey's sack of questions, The Godfather, Full House, MCU, just that one question about WandaVision, and then one more famous foursome. I'll tell you, it's a movie from 2019.
Let me try the MCU question.
So, where is Wanda's hex located in WandaVision?
Westview.
Boom!
Nice job. Nice job. All right, on to the sports side, sir. What category?
Let's do Royals trade. I'll give that a shot.
Royals trades. Okay. I like this one because it's a name that is connected to Royals history, but not like really directly. The two biggest trades for Dayton Moore to finish off the Royals that brought back a couple of championship series MVPs and also a cyborg closer. So the two different trades there. There was one player involved in both trades. Who was it? One player involved in both of those big trades.
Both trades. That brought back both players?
Both of those trades, one player involved in both of them.
Say I don't know the answer off the top of my head. Because involved in both of them.
Yeah, involved in both of them. Doesn't mean they traded for, traded away, either one. There's one player that was involved with both of them that was involved in the trade to the Brewers and also involved in the trade with the Rays. One player.
Odorizzi.
Nice job.
Wow, good pull.
Nice job. Odorizzi traded from the Brewers and then included in the trade for Wade Davis. Odorizzi in both trades. There you go. Odorizzi, as big of a 2015 World Series as anybody else on the Royals. That's what I say. That's what I'm going with. Also, Shane, or Simon, I should say, you are a winner. Well done. Nice job.
Awesome.
Put you on hold. Get your information. Johnny Stavern, $25, heading his way.
We were looking earlier about why Michael Garcia coming up for the Royals. He's at shortstop today.
Oh.
Bobby Witt Jr. still out. Nicky
Lopez got hit by a pitch in the ribs.
Not in the starting lineup.
That makes sense. Yeah, he got hit right in the ribs. And I was wondering if he finished the game because Witt was not playing and they hadn't put him on the IL and maybe there wasn't any, like, to move some things around to have somebody at shortstop. And it was a game in which they were still in it, trying to win the series. If Nicky Lopez sort of had to tough it out because you could see him continuing to walk around gingerly. I mean, he got hit directly in his right rib cage on the side.
With no Benintendi, it is O'Hearn in right field, Isbell in left. So Kyle Isbell left field in the absence of Andrew Benintendi.
And is Benintendi in the Yankees line?
That is the next thing I will check.
And I will go to the phone lines, and we will talk with John, who's next up on Sports Radio 810 Sports or Leisure. John, what side do you want to start with, sir?
Hey, guys. Can I start with that NBA question?
We already got an answer to that NBA question, but we have plenty of – well, I guess there's – is that the Giannis one you're thinking?
The one that was at 30, 10, and 5 NBA Finals.
Yeah, 30, 15, and 5. So 30 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists. Magic was guest and Shaq was guest. Giannis has the 7th most career playoff games with at least 30, 15, and 5. We wanted 2 of the other 3. Magic and Shaq have been eliminated. So 2 of the 3 players that have more than Giannis is 7.
Wouldn't Kobe be on that list?
He would not. Kobe would not be on the list. I mean, just dancing around Lakers. Like 3 Lakers have been named, but not the one that's on this. 3 Lakers, but not the one that's on this. John, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. 913-381-810. Do we take a timeout and then take the last couple? You just want to keep going? Beers he gave me the Major League Baseball when Mike Matheny looks at Duplessis about are we going to challenge or not, and does a little finger motion of no, just keep it going?
Keep rolling.
Okay. Dominic next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Dominic, Sports or Leisure, what side do you want to start with?
I was kind of upset because I caught the MCU question and I knew what it was.
The WandaVision.
Well, you guys should definitely keep doing more, though.
Okay, next week we'll have a fresh batch MCU
We
questions.
told Dylan that his only job all of next week, his intern job, is to come up with more MCU questions.
Hey,
So.
do y'all have any extras I can answer, maybe? Think of one?
Do you? Can I interest you in a video game question?
Sure, go ahead.
These little vibrantly colored beans sure do suffer the consequences of gravity a lot, but recently the game went free to play, allowing you to play short survival games with guys across all major gaming platforms.
I think I've seen it all over social media. I just don't know the name.
Can you say another movie you played in?
I've given you some heavy hints and within the question
Can we
itself.
just see Foursome? Can I get that 2019 movie Foursome?
Yeah, let's do that
sure.
one.
Sure,
why not?
That was unfair. It's not the last remaining foursomes is Knives Out.
Yeah,
2019.
also difficult.
It is tough. It's the last one.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll have more Marvel questions next week. That's I can promise you.
Way to go,
I'll be on
Dylan.
next week.
Way to let Dominic down.
Sorry, man.
Actually, Dylan said he had one off the top of his head.
Do you have one right now? You have the fire away? All right,
He said
Dylan,
he has-
fire. I
Dylan
believe it,
says
man.
he's come up with
We're
a
playing
question.
Calvin ball out here.
Go, Dylan. Go. Pull the microphone.
All right, can you tell me after Avengers Endgame, it was known that Captain America at the end, that was like his retirement. Can you tell me who became Captain America first after Avengers Endgame?
After Avengers Endgame, who became Captain America first?
I forgot about this question. This one did not make my cut because I was like, "There's no chance." If you get it, I'll be impressed.
John Walker.
Nice job, hey! Nice job! Hey!
I watched all the Disney Plus series on Disney Plus.
Good for you, man.
All right, there it is.
All right.
That's great.
On to sports.
Yeah.
See if we can get a couple winners as we walk off here. On to sports. What category are you thinking, Dominic?
Can I get a replay, please?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Can I get a list of the sports?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We got NBA, we got Major League Baseball, we've got Home Run Derby, we got Royals trades, and one NFL quarterback trade question.
Let me get that NFL quarterback trade.
Okay, what franchise is the only one to trade two different quarterbacks they selected with the number one overall pick in the draft? One franchise.
Recently? Or?
Not in the last 20 years.
Can you give me a conference?
AFC.
AFC. Oh.
And I can't give you division.
Okay, I'm just gonna go out on a leg. And number one pick.
Number one picks traded the number one draft pick two different times in their franchise history.
AFC. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna go and say the Jaguars.
Jaguars is incorrect. It's incorrect. Dominic, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it. We'll have more MCU next week, certainly. Charles, you wrap us up here. Charles, walk off. Let's see if we can get this. Charles, sports or leisure? What side?
Let's do that NBA question that everybody's missing.
Okay, very good. Two of the three players that have more than the 7 career for Giannis, 30 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
That's one, and then there's an obvious one.
Oh, crap. LeBron.
That's right.
All right.
LeBron, Kareem, and Wilt. And now Giannis. There you go.
Okay, leisure side, music, games, Corey's Sack, The Godfather, Full House, or Famous Foursomes. You know that one's Knives Out, if you want it.
Full House.
What was the name of the TV show that Danny and Becky co-hosted?
Oh, don't sleep on this one.
Is this what Ron Burgundy said?
Yeah.
I've never seen the show.
No, I mean, I don't know that he said that. No.
I didn't know if this was an easy one or a hard one because I've never seen Full House.
I mean, it was a morning show.
Stay classy, San Francisco.
No,
So close.
no, it's not.
So
It's a
close.
morning show. It's a morning show.
Morning show.
Don't sleep on it.
Sometimes a walk-off has a put back at the rim, you know?
That's exactly right. Yep. It can bounce off Jose Canseco's head for a walk-off home run.
I'm not sure what it is.
Charles, we do have to go because we are late. Thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it.
Should have woken up.
Wake up, San Francisco!
That's right. What was the degree of difficulty on that one, in your judgment?
In my judgment, I think that was probably a 1 out of a 10.
Okay, good. I don't feel bad then.
No, I think that was a
All right.
layup. Yeah.
Okay, all
Just
right.
me. All right, we'll take a timeout, wrap the show next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
What's the categories? I don't know what's going on here.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, thank you for tuning in today on this Thursday edition. We'll be back tomorrow. More Chiefs coverage as well. Carlos Dunlap, a Chief. Andrew Benintendi, a Yankee. What else am I missing? Ryan Jensen carted off the field, the center for the Bucks. Sports or Leisure, presented by Johnny's Tavern. Any other news?
Spags is back in our lives again.
Spagnolo's fun to listen to.
Joe Tooney had a malfunction.
Joe Tooney had one of the... just go listen to the Joe Tooney press conference. It is a masterclass in patriotism.
It really is.
That'd be New England Patriots.
Correct.
But the Patriot way and Joe Tooney, it was beautiful.
Joe Tooney's never been on his heels in his life in any format.
Absolutely no. He's just out there trying to take it one day at a time, just one step on this journey. One step at a time, one day at a time.